pictures of it.
From the camera or, okay.
They can record it.
And there was some chatter about the boundaries, but we,
That's what I was going to next when you were ready.
Well,
Well, they're really,
it's
Well-
jig-jaggy because that's
Yeah.
those are the actual property boundaries, so that
Right.
each parcel will be in one zone, as opposed to now, when some properties are in 3 zones.
Right,
and did I see that we had requested already like an overlay with the current zoning?
yeah.
A graphic,
Yes,
yeah.
did they say they were gonna bring that in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they bring that October 1st. So on this, what I was looking at is why does it stop right here behind the light department building and then, the streets at the split by Prescott and your house near there somewhere?
Yeah, it goes
So
right
why
along.
wouldn't
down here.
That's,
Why wouldn't it go all
that's
the way
my
up to
house
Goodale?
right there.
Yeah, so why wouldn't this include all the way up to Goodale Street?
It used
So that
to.
the parks really
Yeah,
are
we
the-
wondered about that too.
It
Because
used
these
to.
houses here are old, nice old houses, and that's a nice little center.
Mhm.
There are a couple of, well, the guys, a couple of houses down from you came in for a special permit
Mhm.
to put
Yep,
in
the
an
Drews.
apartment. Yeah, and it's a nice, it's a perfect spot for
Well,
that,
there is an old apartment building on the corner.
and the apartment building's back
That's
there.
right.
So why not extend, and there's an apartment building on
There
the
it
other
is, right on the
side.
other side.
So bring this all the way up to
And there's already
the
that nice
schools.
street parking right below
Well, and
that side
the
there.
only reason I can say that I think it doesn't go there now is because this was a lot to chew on for everybody.
Mm.
And it didn't seem like they were liking chewing up that whole road. And they did bring, was it you? Somebody brought up the property that's now been clear cut where they were talking about putting the, yeah, they asked, why isn't that included on it? The one right next to the
Yes.
Irish store?
Curious
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah,
that
yeah.
too.
Wait a minute, clear cut where?
This one,
The one
the
across
old
Yeah.
from
house
the light
was.
department.
And it used to
One
have
that
that big old house there that,
Oh, the
Just
one
so
that's
much-
being,
Just opposite.
yeah, the one where they were asking for a
Yeah.
special permit or
Right.
eventually.
I
did.
think
They were
There should
asking
be-
why it didn't include there, and the only reason I could say is because we didn't talk to the owner to see if he wanted it included.
Yeah, but we didn't talk to any
Yeah,
of the
but they will
owners.
be happy,
Right.
right?
Well, we included the business ones that really should be. I think that's where we stopped.
Yeah, and why are these houses included?
Like, we used to have it go all the way up, the other side of the library, and we stopped that too.
Right, so you, basically, it's all the lots that front on Central Street
Yep.
is
And
generally
it used to
plus
go all the way up, what's the street there on the other side of the library?
Newton Street?
It used to have a lot more of the Newton Street properties, but we sort of took that back.
Because.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I mean, cause the next one up is one that I think these folks, it's the big old slate gray,
Maybe.
12-bedroom place.
oh,
yeah,
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 there's
yeah.
And that seems like it would be something, but the neighbors up on Newton Street may not like that.
Right, I think it was just sort of the,
I mean,
like we also didn't talk about the other couple of places like Pinecroft and other.
yeah, no, we're gonna
Well,
start,
things.
I can see
Yeah.
starting here, which
Yeah,
makes
right.
sense, but why not, when we put it out for, like, notify all the property owners, put it out to everybody, cause, I mean, I don't know, there's a couple of property owners in here that have little, like, nice little old houses where they could have an apartment upstairs if it were allowed in that zone, but in the zone if it's
Well, we
single
could offer it.
residence.
I just,
Talk about a walkable area, that's a.
How far you want to go in Newton?
Yeah.
55?
Say that again?
How far you want to go to Newton Street?
all the way up to his house is what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's just a muck
Well,
raker.
we could be, yeah, I mean, the idea of showing it up to the people who are across, because right now, the way they drew this, that,
Is that the big yellow building?
yeah, the big yellow building
Yellow
that
house.
currently is a business.
Yes.
It's the child psychiatry place,
Yeah,
isn't included in this zone,
which is
so
silly.
it should be.
Yeah.
And then that's why we
That's
have
the
to.
Verizon building on the
I
corner.
mean, across
Oh,
the
And
right.
this
street.
one is
Yeah.
here, yeah,
No, down on Prospect.
yeah, next,
Oh, there's a child psychiatry, okay.
yeah, they
Well-
came, they got a special permit with us, or a
Is
site
that the
plan
one
review
that
with
has
us.
they have the ramps up in the front?
Yes, the
Yes.
ramps,
The
yeah.
big ramps with the
Right across from
PG
the library?
hydrangea?
Mhm.
No, this is over down by
In be-
the gray house that I was just talking about.
It's like
on
across the
Prospect.
in
street.
between Central and Newton Street, on
On
Prospect.
Prospect. You go up,
Right.
Oh,
you
okay.
go up
I don't remember.
Prospect
Like close to where the
from
Verizon
Central.
Oh, near,
thing
oh,
is, where that the Verizon.
Ah,
thing
okay, it
is.
was
Three
next
houses
door.
back, 3 houses back from there, and it backs up
The
against the
Verizon
dentist
building on the
office.
corner.
Oh, I remember them coming in, we had an issue about them building too close to the property or edge of the property or something?
No, they came in and they were,
The ramp or
what was
something?
it? They had
Must
ramps,
be the ramp.
they made sure that they kept it to 14 or less parking spaces is all that we required, so they didn't have site plan review, and they got a permit from the
So-
building inspector.
So we told everyone at the meeting that this might change,
Yes,
depending on what the feedback from folks are.
Sure.
So I don't know whether the people made it make sense in one way to include that and to include this, I would say, but
I think that
I don't know whether people wanted it to expand.
the discussion was
Or whether it's
also,
contract.
this is a long-term plan,
Yeah.
and it's gonna change, we're gonna add and subtract from it, I mean, edit it. I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, nothing was nailed down at the hearing, I assume, but
Right.
But
I'm just thinking if we wanna propose it, if we expand it and everybody there says, no way, we don't really want it, then we get to the point where the people that really want it and are
Yeah,
agreeable,
get what they
then
want.
we can narrow it down, but if I own the properties there and it was changing my properties to go from a residential only to residential plus like a very light, low-density business, it's better value for me, so I would be
Yeah.
in favor of it.
No, I
But
agree.
people may not be, they may,
But people were,
differ in opinion.
both ways.
right,
There was a woman across the street from the library who was kind of opposed to this because she was afraid of somebody building right in her front, you know, next door or in her front yard or something like that.
I don't think anybody wanted big changes.
right. And I-
Even though
I
we,
agree with that.
even though we mentioned 50 years,
They,
people said, well, I wouldn't want it to be that way in 50
so why
years
don't we,
either.
yeah, they said, why don't we leave it as such? Let the 20-year comes, we'll
Well,
take care of that.
Right, but it's village zoning, in 50 years, there is village the way it is. Village is the old way, so that's what we wanna hold, and that's what I kinda sent in the email, is we wanna keep what's there and improve it, is the intention.
Right, and that's.
And we gotta change the wording
I
in
think,
the document
we
to make that
we
happen.
shouldn't be referring to Hudson.
Yes,
Hudson
We
is,
should not, right, we should
no,
not. And
Hudson is
We
humongous.
should de-emphasize or get rid of the high density
Yeah. Huh?
aspect of it all.
I like this.
People
Yeah, but
didn't
you
want
cannot
it to
compare
change.
Hudson to
They
West
felt
Boylston
that
downtown.
if
The
we
West Boylston
added
Central Street.
businesses, it should go somewhere else. And this area of town should be kept visually sort of the same as it is.
yeah, I like that idea, that sounds
And
good.
I think that makes sense.
And so,
Oh, that's.
the other thing that they had in their main point was that you go in, or actually maybe it's in the notice to the meeting, it talked about having, you visited these village centers and you find a place to park, a central parking area, and then you can walk everywhere. Well, where is that gonna happen here?
I don't know,
Right,
I don't know.
Taj,
Why
Because you've
say-
gotta walk across,
yeah, just knock it down and then there's a
Somebody
parking
could
lot.
parking lot.
yeah, and then you're gonna walk 3 blocks across a major intersection to get to the stores over here. I
Well,
don't know.
the library would be the extent of where you walk to from Taj, I think.
Right.
Right,
So I'm not sure that we wanna say there's gonna be central parking somewhere, I think it's gonna be.
Well, I think the
we want
idea was that
small
you
cottage
would park
industries.
on the street or whatever. You'd have 3 things to do, you'd park once.
Right,
whatever
and I
your
like
deal
that
is.
idea, be able to walk on
Sure.
the sidewalk, cause the sidewalks were just improved. We spent almost $1 million doing that, so that's perfect for this area.
Yeah, there was also some confusion about when we talked about, well, you know, we might put in a bike lane or something like that, and people were like, well, who's gonna pay for that? And we're like, well, nobody's gonna pay for that. You know, well, I don't have a sidewalk in front of my house, who's gonna pay for that? Well, nobody's gonna pay for that, we're not going through and, you know, as soon as this goes through, we're not gonna go change, tearing down buildings and stuff.
right.
You know, this is just a plan to keep things the way we want them, you know?
I was the one that brought up about the property across the street from the light plant, the one where.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking that if they change it to village zoning, that would give whoever buys the land a better opportunity to build something there that's gonna meet up. Because right now,
I
that
agree.
property is zoned single residence and general residence.
Right,
So if it goes into one distinctive
Yeah.
zoning,
Yeah,
then now that person
Yes.
knows exactly
Yes.
what they can do, and I think it's gonna be more beneficial, not only for them, but also for the town, and
yes.
for the people around it, because their property values are gonna go up.
Yeah, but some people, they said, they don't want a business over there.
I understand that, but you
So
know.
now, they can put only their condos, other
Then,
than
then
that.
the only other alternative is to put sidewalks on Route 12 so that people can walk on both sides of Route 12.
That's a
go to
whole,
all the-
that's another plan that
Only
we
the
are
store.
working on,
Yeah.
yes.
Then that would be, so
Something.
put
Once
all
the-
the
once-
business, make Route 12
Yeah.
the village zoning center.
Once the Kelly Square is done, we will do this one.
No, but the idea
I
of
grew up
Route,
in a village zoning
Route
center.
12 should be a walkable business center.
Right.
It shouldn't be a village center. A village center is these small little houses that they dragged out before the reservoir flooded them. We got a lot of really nice houses, a lot of character, a lot of history there. We don't have a lot of character and a lot of history along Route 12.
None.
But we have good businesses, we've got a lot of good places to go and do what we need to do in town, so you need both. That's
It should
why
be-
we're doing zoning, that's why we would make this village zoning, village center zoning down here, and then hopefully improve Route 12.
It's just like with, the old vet
Yeah.
hospital there, okay? If that is Dr. Tajin's old.
Oh, the veterinary,
The
okay,
veterinary
sorry.
hospital, okay? If that is considered in the zoning, village zoning, then whoever buys it now is not only gonna be able to put a business there, but they also can put, like Vinnie said, put a couple of apartments on top of it, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes I think it's gonna be more beneficial once, it gets approved and you have one zone. Because I mean,
Yes.
if you look at Central Street, there's a lot of businesses on Central Street that are could some way and be some violations, some with
Yes.
general residency, some single residency.
Yeah,
So now if we go with one, it makes it a lot
It
easier.
and there were people who spoke to that also.
Yeah, that was part of the, as advertised, is that part of this project is to straighten out the properties that are crossed by two zones. And sort of bump them up into one or the other, whichever the current
Just
zone
make
wants
it
to do.
consistent, I mean, that makes perfect sense, that's good planning, and we have to present it, and the town has to decide, yes, that's what we want, or no, it's not what we want, and we go on from there.
And we'll discuss it at the.
And that'll be less
next
headache for
hearing.
the ZBA when somebody wants to come do an accessory apartment, but it'll be in the village zoning, they don't have to worry
It's
about
not an accessory apartment, it's included,
Exactly,
so
that's
it's,
what I'm saying.
right.
Or a
Right,
home-
right now,
It's a
if
by
they
right.
want to
Accessory
do it,
apartment
it'd be
and
considered.
home occupation are both gonna be, that's what we said, that they're
Right.
gonna be by right kind of thing.
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
So what we're gonna do to move this forward, not that I wanna stop discussion, but the idea that we go forward is, we gotta draft something, and maybe I could do a draft of extending this to what we
They'll do it.
just talked about.
Just ask them to do it.
Oh, I thought you said I'll do it, I was
No,
gonna.
not you, come on. Paying good money to CMRPC, or somebody's paying
Well,
good
no,
money to
but they
CMRPC.
don't know where to draw the lines, so I was gonna just draw, I'm not gonna do a fancy plan,
you know-
I'm
you
just
know
gonna
what?
give them an idea,
It's
okay,
the
draw
last
it.
map that what you're talking about is the last map that they had during the walk-around, is what you're talking about.
Is it?
And they
Okay.
can just resurrect that map.
Okay,
That's the map that had all the way down to the parks, the other side of the, Newton, all the way over to Newton Street. That's the
Oh, okay.
map. It's almost exactly this with a different red line.
At
Pick up
least-
Facebook.
At least
It's on
we're
Facebook.
consistent, that's good.
It's on
Um,
Facebook. Put it up here.
Database,
So,
yeah.
so why aren't these buildings, like the Odd Fellows and whatever, why aren't those included in the
I
zone?
can never find anything on Facebook. Facebook sucks.
Right.
There's a home, and then there's the Odd Fellows,
Yeah, and then this is
that's
a,
a home,
yeah.
wait a minute, where am I?
Neighborhood.
The Masons, okay, so we got the Masons, is not
Masons.
included.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And then, because there's a residence, a Mason, a residence,
Which was
and then the Odd
Neighborhood.
Fellows.
no, that's on,
This is the Odd Fellows right on Newton
oh,
Street.
it is, Newton, okay.
So we could put those on there, cause that's part of the community or
That's what I was
civic,
thinking.
I guess is what it's called.
Yeah.
They came in with something.
Yep.
Okay, so
Okay.
Odd Fellows and Masons, and then we can narrow it down after that.
Yeah.
But I'd rather give people a notice and say, okay, your property and the abutters are all gonna get notices of this public hearing or this public forum that we hold, so that more people will attend and be able to say, yes, we like it, no, we don't like it, what are you, crazy, what are you trying to do? I mean, I don't know.
Who gets notified now? Only the people in the zone?
Right now, nobody gets notified.
Okay.
And I wanna hold a public hearing, cause this isn't gonna happen until the spring at the earliest. So-
Yeah, yeah.
So we wanna be able to hold some meeting in January, February, I think
Okay.
is the time.
So you're not, okay, so the October first meeting wouldn't have those additional notifications?
I didn't think they were gonna notify people, you guys talked about it, I didn't.
So,
It was
okay.
just more to talk about this,
Yeah.
flesh it out a little more,
Okay.
show the people that are already concerned that, yes, we heard them, and that we're backing everything down.
Right,
And then, what are their thoughts with that
Oh, that's the
eased
condo.
off
Yeah.
idea and the expanded?
but it sounds like the board is in general agreement that that's
Further
the
down the
direction we wanna
discussion.
go in, is to ratchet down the high density intention of this, so, okay. Okay,
Maybe another post.
By that guy, by Roar.
okay, additional old business, oh, yes,
This was just discussion of the board tonight? Okay, so
Yeah.
the next meeting will be October? for the
October
public?
1st.
October
Oh,
Well,
1st
you,
is
well,
the
you
public
can
hearing.
speak, we're not.
Have you made any changes to what they talked about at the last meeting tonight?
We have not made any changes to the
Oh, we
document,
just
no.
started talking about it. We looked at it, and
You didn't expand the area or?
we're talking about expanding it, and that's all.
Because
We
one of the
included your
negatives that the one across from the light department, it would mandate that person, he couldn't do all housing. It would
Right.
mandate him to do housing/business.
Mhm.
I believe you read that at the last meeting. So that would be a major change for that property.
Well, no, what we would do is we would change, I think that the consensus from everybody here was that we wanted to change the bylaw to allow people to stay residential, not, and the talk in the bylaw was you had to have business and residential. We
Yeah.
should change that to
Yes.
could be just residential, so it
Yes.
wouldn't be
Yes.
forced.
And that property is in 3 different zones right now, which makes it really confusing to do anything on that property.
Right, and some of the other concerns I believe that night that people had was, you didn't have 10 feet away from the
Yes.
next house.
Yep.
and they
Oh,
worried
did you get
about
that impression? I got that pretty strongly.
You
Yeah.
had,
Yeah,
my argument was you were gonna put them close to the street,
yeah.
so if we're ever to wanna do work on that road, we're
Right.
stuck, now there's a building right in the sidewalk.
That's
Yep,
the stuff,
so-
that's
so
the
what we
stuff
talked
we're
about
gonna
was-
ratchet down.
Right, we wanna retain setbacks, just to refresh what was said earlier, was we wanna
Now we're getting
retain
the
the current
microphones.
conditions, we wanna really retain the character, what's out there now, not make it high density or higher density, we wanna retain what's there. We wanna retain setbacks, the height limitations, allow only residential uses, not require there to be a business aspect to it, if they want to.
So that
they-
portion that says if it's over 3 acres, it would be mandated that they do housing/business. There was something that was read that.
Yes,
That would
Right.
change.
Yes.
That would change, we would change the bylaw, not force people into this.
Right. And then we were talking also about changing the extent of the zone to get feedback from the locals to see if it was something they wanted to go all the way over to the fields, the town fields, and a playground, on Central and Crescent, so bring it all the way across. And then if we find that people don't want it, and if people in the zone right now, if they're in the zone and they don't wanna do this, let us know that, we don't have to put it through at town meeting, or it goes to town meeting and it gets voted down. This is all, it's up to the town to decide, but we're just trying to scope it out that's in the best interest of everybody that's kind of gonna be involved.
Again, when you say town, it's only those 2 streets are interested. All others, they don't care, right?
some people will care,
Some people will,
yeah.
a lot of people people that are in
Right.
school, they'll be walking up and down Central and
Yeah,
Crescent.
but that's not affecting their property.
It's not affecting,
It's
but they're.
affecting somebody else's
affecting their
property.
town.
Right, but they
Right, their
live
town
there.
or,
Town,
yeah, it
but
would be
it's,
for
you know,
everybody's use, right?
Unless it affects their property, they are not going to say, big.
Well, I don't know, we get a lot of people that speak up,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, there's a
See?
few there.
But
They
it-
want me-
But it is her town.
I would like to speak up if I may.
Okay,
It's affecting me. What I've heard this gentleman say is he would like to see business across from my house. I would not like to see business across from my
There
house.
is business across from your house.
Yes, that one store on a Christmas week
Is busy.
will have 100 and something cars come and go from there. I don't want any more than that. I already have enough. I
Okay.
have the electric light company, I have them. I don't need business across from me. I don't wanna see it. If you're going to do that, let me know so I can sell my house right now.
well,
I
we
am
haven't-
upset. I'm sitting home watching this. My blood pressure's going higher and higher. I'm like, my God, you gotta be kidding me making this decision.
Well,
You're
no
going to
decision.
make decisions that are going to affect, and I don't wanna hear 25, 50 years from now, because this is, once you make a bylaw now, it's gonna go into effect now. It's gonna affect us now. I don't wanna see businesses any more than we already have.
I believe that answers
In
your
my
question, why we're
neighborhood.
not going all the way up to
There's
the.
already too much traffic as it is. I don't wanna put more traffic in this area. What do you have to need, a kid to get killed before you stop it? Because the way cars are going now, they're going 45, 50 miles an hour down that street. You've got too much traffic already. There is a sign. It used to be you couldn't come down 140, they put it around the reservoir. Well, now GPS sends them down this way. There's a sign in front of the electric light company that says no big trucks. There must be 100 big trucks going by every day. It's a joke. And no one's following through on rules and laws. I mean, I've lived here for 60-something years. It's disgusting what is happening to our town. I don't want to see more
Well,
business.
this is-
I had to let this out. I had to say it.
The idea is we would like to preserve the center of town the way it is.
If you allow it to be more business, you're not gonna be preserving anything.
Well,
Someone's gonna come in, cut one of those houses down and put an ugly store there.
No, the idea is to not allow that.
Well, that's why writing these bylaws is special,
Right.
because that's what we would like to, if that's
We're trying to avoid that.
what we're trying to if that's what we're trying to make happen, then we have to put in the bylaws somehow
Well,
to
when I
make that
heard
happen.
this gentleman say he would like to see a business up there,
It's better than a 40B project.
I would agree with that.
there is no 40B even being thought about. We're in Madar quarter, we don't
So-
need a 40B.
We encourage you to come by to the public hearing, the continuation of the discussion on October 1st.
So we're still preliminary. This is not.
Okay, well, I had to let you know.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
I
great.
had to let you
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah.
up
I'm
front.
glad
I've
it's
been
on TV.
Watching this and hearing this and going out of my mind.
Well, we don't want you to go out of your mind. But if you have that to say or more to say, please come
No,
October 1st.
that's what I had to get off my,
Please.
I had to get out of bed and get
Come-
dressed and get
come
here
Oc-
to say
Come
something.
October 1st.
Right, when
and
there will
you'll
be more
there'll-
people
There'll be
to
more people
hear.
here, we'll have a good discussion, and it's not our intention to force anything on anybody, so.
And we're gonna try to redraft this to back it down.
Yeah.
For the town, to be more for West Boylston, not other communities. So that's what we need to do, is we need to back
Why
it
do we
down.
even need this?
Well, cause currently,
Other than
those,
Mr. Gamon came up with this act back in 2000 or whatever. I mean,
well,
why?
and it may be that it doesn't even go through. The planning board actually looked at this, I think in 2012 or 2013, and decided that no changes were really needed. And then there was more of a regional approach or regional push to have this occur through Central Mass. They were getting federal or some kind of grant money to start looking at this. And so it was in our master plan to evaluate it. And when we were doing it back, whatever it was, 8 years ago, we didn't have the capacity on the planning board to go through and do all this public hearing and public meeting, but now because we've got assistance from the Regional Planning Commission, we're able to do that, and we wanna hear what the community wants. If 80% or 60% of the people are in agreement with you, we probably won't even push this forward to town meeting. But what we wanna do is try to make something that works. If we can't get to a point of something that works, we won't present it to town meeting. If we get to the point where, 80% of the people are in favor of it, then we put it to the town and see what they say. I don't know where and how it's gonna go, but I know, and it sounds like from the rest of the board, is we wanna keep the same character as what we have now. We don't wanna put 5-story buildings in there. We don't wanna have 0 offsets. We don't wanna have, a situation that looks like the center of Uxbridge or the center of Hudson or even the center of Concord. We wanna keep West Boylston as it is and make it functional.
Then again, I'll say, why are we doing this then?
Well, the other thing is we have to make it so that the zoning does preserve it. You know, there might be places right now where you're not noticing it, but there's a space where there's a beautiful house, but it happens to be in a, what is it, commercial or business over there?
Commercial zone.
A commercial zone, and somebody in fact could do what you're talking about.
Remember when Cumberland Farms came in?
I mean, they could have done that
Loudest
legally.
person for that, fighting it.
And that's,
That's
what
one
we're trying
thing
to
we were
protect
trying to prevent. And that meeting, at the ZBA meeting, was quite loud and vocal. And I went to that meeting, and I was gonna say something, but by the time 30 other people said what I was gonna say, there was no point to it. And we got what we wanted, because they went down the street.
But you
But
could
the-
look at Wexford House, for example. It's a quaint little store.
Mhm.
And 90% of the time, you don't see anybody there because, I'm sorry, the lady, elderly, God forbid that anything happens to her, but that store, she makes a fortune at Christmas time. And I have counted over 100 cars coming and going from that place. So, put another little quaint little store in, you don't know what's gonna happen, is what I'm trying to say.
I understand.
Stores create traffic.
yeah,
but it
And
does
our
creates
area
revenue to
is
the town
already-
too.
What?
It does creates revenue to the town too.
I mean, I don't know, I kinda like the store, I mean, I've gone in there, I bought
Yeah,
gifts
me
for my
too.
daughters,
I have to.
you know,
It's a nice store.
I mean, it's nice little
Nothing
things, you know.
against the store. It's just, it brings traffic.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
talking about traffic in a residential zone.
I mean, part of it might be doing something with the, not that we could widen the streets, but I mean, they've already got a little wider, so at least maybe the turning in and stuff like that is a little bit safer. You know, people turning in and turning out.
No, it's the amount of cars.
No, it's,
She has a parking lot down below, she has a parking lot up
And it
above,
fills up.
and they fill across the street on a weekend into the electric light company. So if the electric light company wasn't there, where would they have parked?
Your driveway.
Only one car.
You could make some money.
That's
no,
right.
it's,
You
but-
just sell your
but the
I
idea-
will eliminate it, not.
Yeah, I understand.
Right, and that's, the good thing about that store, and that's part of what we're looking at in these bylaws, is to have, it's not non-competing, but like you said, it was on weekends at Christmas time, so that you don't have the kids walking to school, you don't have the bikes and the traffic that's going on there.
At Christmas, you'll
So-
find them on Thursdays and Fridays, and she's not open all weekend
Right.
anymore. But when Kathy was
Right.
here, they were open all the time, you'd see a lot of traffic all week. Where I'm just referring to now, but
Yeah.
yes, you would.
But it's also, what we're trying to do in this is to find stores and businesses that are gonna be kind of offset from the other regular, conditions. I know that there's a history of problems with the traffic associated with the schools and,
Well,
It's
just when
already
they,
outrageous.
when they
I
put
didn't
in
want
the-
to
and
add
the
to
school
it.
pickup, that kind
I
of
remember,
stuff.
I remember that street, before they put in the curb, you could, and there was the waiting line, but the waiting line could kinda move over enough that you were out of traffic
They were
before the
parking on
curb.
the sidewalks.
Yeah, they were
and
just,
people
and they were
couldn't walk
moving back on, and, but as soon as they put in the curb, all of a sudden, everybody's pushed into the road, and that's when the traffic even got worse, cause there wasn't enough room.
Right, that's
You
why,
know?
and that's why we need to manage the stuff.
Right.
correctly, And use the, I mean, like, so we need to get some enforcement.
Well, my kids got old enough,
to
so I
make
don't
this
care
happen,
anymore, so.
Right. But yeah, but that's good, thank you for the feedback, thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
out.
And I don't think you're the only person, I think that came through loud and clear in the whole, everybody discussing what was going on.
At our last meeting, at the public forum.
Well, you were there, I mean, it certainly came through.
I can throw it out and argue that I want my house to be part of it. My house for 20 years was, my father ran a business out of that house. Never had a sign out front, he was a bookkeeper accountant. People would come, they had the
Did you go
access.
to the ZBA to get the
Yeah.
occupation?
Do you have an
They
home
had
occupation
it.
permit?
It was a long time ago.
You are,
But for 20 years, he did run a business there.
Yeah.
They came in the front door, they had a separate entrance to and from his office. It didn't bother anybody, we never had signs.
Well, that's exactly the point.
But that was back in the 50s and 60s. It was a very small little thing. That's not a big deal, people are doing that all over town as it is now, you know? So, but we don't need a district for people to do that in their home,
Okay,
okay? We don't need a district for people to do that in their home.
well, that's the opposite of what we're doing. Like, if we say, all right, we're not gonna do it, and it just happens all over town, nobody, it's willy-nilly, then when there's a popular one that generates a lot of traffic.
People work out of their houses.
No, exactly, but should we just abandon zoning because of that? I mean, this is our job on the planning board.
Or they tell people they can't do it.
I'd like to move on to our next topic, so please,
Okay.
please come on
Thank you.
October first, we would love to hear,
Thank you,
we'd love to hear from you.
thank
See
you.
you, Brenda.
Two
Sorry,
forty-two,
I had to say it.
no, that's okay,
Okay.
242 Woodland Street, did we get copies?
Yes.
We could do this after all the
Yeah, this one, we
people
don't-
are adjourned.
Do we have the mystery page too?
yeah, I did copy all of them. I gave you
Yes.
three pages.
Well, mine says 1 of 1, 2 of 2, 3 of
Where?
3. Can you fix that?
So you got,
I didn't get one.
I gave you one.
No, I didn't.
you have one there, don't you?
I have the old one, that's page 1 and 3.
Should be
Yeah.
another one under
You
there
can have
somewhere.
Thank you.
All right.
No,
You have one?
Grab
We give you?
No, I gave you mine, cause it was.
Well, do you wanna do
I-
things that people are visiting for instead of this stuff? We can do this afterwards. Then it'll be tired and it'll go faster.
It came back only 2 pages again?
Did you?
Seriously?
No, I have one,
I got page 2.
1, 2, and 3.
I got
Okay.
1, 2, and 3. Are you looking at the right copy? We
You-
still have the other copy, so do you have the, are you?
I
Give me your,
got
give me your own copy, give me your own copy.
Old copy?
Yeah.
Okay,
So you have it,
I have a new copy, yes.
good,
He
okay.
gave me one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I gave one.
Yeah.
to Mal, so.
Sure.
Okay, so let's,
Copied.
everybody read this?
gentlemen.
We did,
Yeah, like about a month ago.
yeah.
When they sent it out.
Remember what it said?
Good job, everybody.
I remember what it said, but I don't remember what I said. It's-
Do you remember what?
Were there any changes that we asked for that you know of, Mark, when you were reviewing our comments?
You didn't
Comments
like,
since some years ago or a month ago?
you didn't like the tone or something.
Oh, I didn't see any, did you reply to me with comments?
I replied to the board, I think, but,
I didn't read that either.
yeah, it was,
Well, it is the
it was
wrong
exactly
tone.
like you said in your email, is that it's kind of, it's more, I don't know, how do you phrase it?
This letter is certainly for discussion by the board before it goes out.
Right. There was some things, well, I don't really care about that, but the regs say you have to do it. Well,
Well, that's the, yeah, that's
it's,
the.
that you can't have, I mean,
Can't
it's,
have that,
it's-
either
Right.
requiring it or you're not.
Well, that's my conflict.
Yeah,
right, so,
Well, that doesn't have to get to anybody else, that just has to be,
right, so those might wanna get taken out.
oh, like the legal resolution, I feel that a chain link fence enclosure is functional and expensive. Replacing the enclosure is not warranted since the chain link fencing is used by other businesses in town to screen their dumpsters. The zoning should apply uniformly, not to all.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I don't know that there's another spot in town that has chain link around their dumpsters.
Well,
Police station.
across the street,
Where?
behind, whatchamacallit? Brown Rice? That,
Oh, I've never driven around back, but they're not supposed to, they.
no,
have a permit,
they're not
but-
supposed to, there's another place to, that I noticed.
Okay. Yeah, so we should enforce the rules, not just be, because when people come in and say, okay, we're gonna do this, and the reg says it's screening and chain link fence is not allowed, the people that
Right.
follow the rules
Well,
should be penalized.
The statement before that, this needs to be either be replaced or a variance requested from the ZBA.
yes, yes.
That's really
Yeah.
the response.
Then, yeah,
Yeah,
then get
that's
rid of
right.
the next paragraph.
Right.
All right.
Oh, and then the nothing further from this item, do you want me to take those out? Those were comments by VHB that were then resolved.
Yeah, if it's resolved, don't even worry about it.
Should we take them out of this letter? The only reason to leave them in is because this letter is a response to a letter a long time ago, which was from VHB. But I think the original response to their request to,
For a certificate of completion?
yeah,
As long as it's consistent, I mean, as long.
well, that's the only reason to leave it in, is so it's consistent.
So then leave it in.
Leaving one in.
Just so
What are we
that
talking about?
follows up.
Like number
Four?
2, to
Two?
change the number of parking space from,
48.
48 to 46 was previously reviewed by
Others
VHB
needed.
and accepted by the planning board, nothing, but it was a comment in a letter, that's the only reason it's in there.
Yep,
Just
that's
to
fine.
resolve it.
Just to document that it was done.
Right, and it says nothing further is needed, so
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
good,
that's
that's good.
good.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
The fa-
the riprap slopes part, number 4.
Yep, I mean, if they can, I think that was all right, it was something about if they can provide some certification that everything is safe and meets a certain standard, we will submit it to VHB for them to confirm or deny. I mean, I think that was kind of the idea that we were looking at.
Mhm.
If someone comes in and goes over the edge, it is a liability.
Well, number 4 actually requests a change. Please provide an engineered design that will protect the public by we'll do something, a flat at the top or a taller fence or something. It's requesting work.
Right, he needs to provide something.
Yeah, okay.
And we should approve it before he does it. Cause if he puts something in there and it's not good enough, but
But it's
what he
done.
wants to
But
do,
it's- right.
he's just spinning his wheels, so.
So 4 talks about the danger of the slopes when you're walking around the parking lot. 5 talks about the rock slope.
Yep.
And we're concerned,
And the slope.
we're concerned about the rocks falling down onto the road, or,
Well, it's been how many years? 4 years, so that
Yeah.
if whatever's fallen, it's probably fallen.
Right.
So that shouldn't be a problem.
I don't think it was that the rocks are gonna fall down, it's just a dangerous slope for people to, whatever, fall off.
Right.
You know,
Oh, so it,
Right.
okay.
it wasn't that the
And there
rocks
was,
are, it's gonna
but there was also
erode.
gonna be some planting, I thought,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
that-
haven't
that's-
seen any of
that's-
that.
I think
Or is
that's
that
the
the next
last
one?
one. No, that's, one of the comments, I don't remember which one, but it's been a long time and there hasn't been any plantings. you
Right.
know?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Number 6, nothing further.
Yep.
7,
yeah, the 7 with the lighting, I don't know, nobody, we sort of resolved that with the abutters, nobody's wanting it changed.
Okay.
8 is old now. 8
Yeah,
has changed
it's
since
changed.
then, because they
Yeah.
requested another change.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, 9 was just a detail that's it's easy for the plan.
Right, 10, concrete walks were upgraded to asphalt, so,
Yep, so 10 is good.
from asphalt.
how is 11 different than 4?
Is it 4 or 5 that it's kind of the same as?
Yeah, do we wanna go with one or the other, or were those separate items
I
on
think
a
there were separate
prior
items on
letter?
a different letter, and that's why they could show up twice.
Oh, all right, okay. Number 12, you might wanna get rid of, wanna change the word asses to something else. Maybe asses. Just saying.
Yeah, missed that one. That was a good catch.
It's not describing, no.
So there's actually,
Further, nothing
there's not that
further.
many action items here then, there's only a few.
No, but he hates going to the engineer, and the one that requests the engineered resolution to the top of, or the edge of the driveway.
Yeah,
That's the only one he's gonna have to, whatever, spend money on.
Alright, so it's been minimized, so that's good.
Right.
any other comments on the letter?
Mail it.
Oh, let me add it.
Right.
Oh, and then, does anybody know if this is a good address? This address is an old one.
For
60
Mr.
Dorothy
Conger?
Ave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably send it there and also to the address.
Okay.
242, so.
Ellen, you can just review this to make sure that everything's good.
Oh, is this the current format? This top?
Yeah, get rid of the 127 Hartwell Street on the cover.
Oh, right.
That was current when we started the letter.
Surprised, I didn't have the school address,
No, I was on the planning board
or
then.
the one room, whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a while, but not that long.
All right, we done with that?
Oh,
Yep.
I hope so.
Well, I'll be back any.
Okay, 8 o'clock. Mr. Ali? So, what do we have as far as the bond reduction?
Bond reduction to 61,000 something. Right now, we have a bond of 171,000, and substantial work has been done except the finish coat. And there, obviously, I got an email from VHP and Winnie on the sidewalk. Those three locations are, I had a meeting with Dan Amarolas, and they told me they are going to fix it. They are going to go back 10 feet inside, bring an apron and level up that thing, because the driveways are steep down there, so that has to be corrected.
That's with the
The
sidewalk hitting
Sidewalks.
those driveways.
So we are, what we are doing it is we're putting an apron about 10 feet inside, cut the driveway and repave it and bring it to the grade.
Good.
The driveways will be steeper, but it is the town, within the town easement, so it's not in the driveway.
There was one about a sidewalk that was in the middle of the yard, there was feet
Too
higher
high.
than the earth.
Too high, yeah.
It's not a feet, it's like 3 inches higher.
Okay.
It doesn't meet the requirement.
So
obviously.
are you gonna sort of feather that in or something?
No, what we do is, where the driveway goes in,
Oh, this was sidewalk. Somebody was talking about
Somebody
sidewalk.
said the sidewalk was,
the sidewalk goes through the driveway. Where the sidewalk and driveway is going, the driveway is lower, because it's steeper driveway. So the sidewalk goes, the road goes down and sidewalk is higher. So what we'll do is we'll cut behind the driveway and feather it in so that it meets the ADA requirement.
So he holds the grade of the sidewalk going across the driveways, and he has to adjust the grade of the driveways to meet that.
Oh, I
Just
thought there was
two-
some other,
Just 2 driveways.
of just the sidewalks was wherever they were higher than the grass around them. That's the
No, no.
impression I got, but I didn't.
That
Yeah,
was the,
They hadn't graded the front yards out,
Yeah.
so this was in the, I think a private, one of the lots.
yeah,
They had graded the sidewalk, but then there was a step
Yeah.
or a drop off where they dug to put the sidewalk in,
so the lawn
so they
was.
need to grade the.
yeah, we did that thing
Oh, so
already.
The lawn
That's
was
it.
not finished, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
that was resolved.
that wasn't the
That-
impression we got when the,
What happened was, when the neighbor showed up, it was rough graded, and we were waiting for the fine grader. Obviously, paving contractor was really busy because of the rain and summer. They are not getting enough time to pave it, so they gave me about 3 weeks hold. So we were holding, we gravelled the walkways, and we were waiting for them to come and final grade it. Finally, they came and graded it. It was a lot lower than what people thought. Obviously, the back of the sidewalk had to be graded off, put loom and grade it off. We did that thing already.
You did that,
That's been
okay.
taken care.
Okay.
Only issue is not taken care is about the sidewalk going across the roads,
Yep.
across the two driveways, which will be fixed.
Okay.
When we are doing the finish coat, and I'm anticipating the finish coat sometime in few weeks,
And then finish, and that, the road grade is.
final.
So that's what we've got. Have we heard anything from VHB on their review of this? I don't think so.
haven't seen it.
I had a talk with Wayne Amico.
Mhm.
Yep.
They are short of staff because of all the vacations and other stuff as usual. And no one is available till next week, so next week he wants to meet and go over the bond, and then he's going to send it to
Okay.
Check.
the planning board, so that the
Do
planning
we
board,
wanna put this on our agenda for next month or next?
next meeting.
So back on 2 weeks?
There is a resident here on the New York.
Yes, you're from Newhouse Circle, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have, what issue did you
Yeah,
have
I think-
tonight?
Question or?
Well, should I go up there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
come on
come
up. Yeah, have a seat.
I think the whole street previously has brought up an issue with water. And so we're working with Ali to some extent to fix it. And I think last time we met, we didn't know if it was a town issue or a building issue. We've worked with the superintendent at the West Boylston Water District. We've run some tests, and it seems to be an issue more with the pipes inside the house, not the city water. And so I just wanted to come and see, there's not a lot of recourse for us as residents. So before any bonds given out, we'd like to see if we are in agreement with the fixes that are gonna take place to fix the water issue.
Do you know about this issue?
This has been really a Magnish issue which we've been going through with Mike Coveney. Steve and myself been talking on it.
But
On
it's to
and
the
out.
point where the current bacterial readings in the water are in excess of 1,000 colony forming units per mil. The acceptable safe drinking water is 500. So we're
So-
double that, and so,
Is the water department of the opinion that the water being delivered to the property is fine?
yes, they've tested the water at the street level and inside the house. The street level has a low units of, I think, about 32 colony forming units per mil, and we're at about 1,055. So,
So what could go wrong in your pipe?
The only thing is we use specs piping in the houses. That has been approved by standards, standards
So
and
that could
everything.
go wrong in the house?
And only spot which is not been, we have a doubt what Mike, I had a long conversation with Mike Coveney, And Mark Cavani told the only place where he sees it is the small piece which is connected to from the pipe to the faucet. It's a small piece of pipe. Maybe that must be causing it, but that's the only thing which is not rated. It comes from China, made in China faucets. It comes with it, so I had told him to send me an email about the pictures about that. He did this morning. That's what I'm trying to.
Where in the house have they measured?
I'll show you to you.
The bathroom's upstairs. It seems to be more of an upstairs issue. So again, right now,
This small pipe. Which
Ali is still working with us to rectify the situation. Yesterday in our conversation, we might be on a disagreement on how many more things we're gonna try before we rectify the water.
This pipe, yeah.
And so
Small
with that
tubing
being the
which
case,
goes
I
from
would
the
just
faucet
wanna bring
to
it
the
to
other
attention of
faucet.
the group.
Yeah.
So I was just saying, we've been talking, we've been working, we've agreed to rectify this, or at least attempt this fix
Okay.
here.
Okay.
I think, at least in our conversation on the phone yesterday, we might be in a difference of opinion on how many more things we're gonna try. My opinion would be we're gonna try until we fix it. And so, I just wanted to bring that up to
Is-
the board
is
as
it
we're
the s-
releasing bond.
Is it the same fixtures?
It's a
in all
civil
houses?
matter.
Yeah, is it just
Actually,
yours?
I
this
know
is
at
this is a
least 4
concern,
residents on the street.
but it's nothing to do with the bond issue. I agree with Steve. If there is a problem that has to be resolved, it is my warranty behind him. It's a civil matter. Obviously, it was done by insured plumbers and insured thing. There is insurance involved in it. So I think at this point, I've been trying to help Steve as much as possible. We got the plumbers. We thought we went through all the process. What we can go do. It has been going on for 6-7 months, and we are trying to help. That's all I can tell.
Well,
So
as
we're
far as
still
the
working on
bond,
it, but I just
as
wanna-
far as the bond is gone, we got another 2 weeks. Hopefully you can run whatever tests you need to do, and, I mean, you can disinfect it.
But the bond is nothing to do with this one.
Right, but the 2 weeks,
Yeah.
hopefully everything will be done, but that's gonna be an item that we're gonna ask.
Yeah.
To see what the status is, so, and.
What
just-
about, what about one of the issue they were talking about, the street light,
Those are fixed.
fixed,
So
paid all
done?
the bills?
Lights are on?
Yep, lights are on, street, we're happy with the sidewalks and everything else.
So you will be paying the bill until the
That's what
road
John
is
told me, yeah.
officially given to the town?
That's why I want to finish up the road and put it on agenda to accept it. That's the last thing left.
But
is
you
the
do
finish.
still have one other building to be built, right?
Oh, that's all done,
All done?
all done.
And check the town's, the planning board's website, we have a process for town road acceptance,
Yes,
so it
I
should be
saw that.
all laid out.
I saw that. I'm working on all the as-built plans and all the other stuff right now.
Okay, and
All the
homeowners
bonds and-
association stuff.
Drainage association is already in place, it's recorded.
Okay.
You
Do we have a
didn't,
copy
you
of
didn't
that?
give me a permit before you.
homeowners
You were very
association.
thorough on
Oh,
that
was
one.
all that? Okay.
You remember that.
Okay.
Only I think
Should be started.
three members are left and 2 are new, but we made sure that drainage agreement is already in place. And there are some paving issues which has to be fixed with VHP, we are going to do it.
You have any other thing?
Okay, so far, so good.
So far, we're good, so good, we're working together, hopefully.
Do you know where you're getting the water for that newer circle? Which well?
From Prescott? I don't know.
We talked to Mike, and Mike said it's a combination of multiple wells, so we can't pinpoint exactly where the water's coming, so we can't
The
blame it on one
manganese,
well
it's
versus
the
the other.
manganese issue which we have it all over the town. What,
It's not all over the town,
on that side?
it's one of those wells. but
Is it?
It's not all over the town.
We have the same problem in Oakdale also. Yeah.
Okay,
Great. Another one.
Stephen Leonardo.
So we'll be on the agenda for the 24th,
Thank
26th.
You wanna come back to the
Sixth.
one, when we're doing it again? or-
Yeah, well,
What'd you say, 22nd?
26th.
26th,
thank you.
okay.
Westland Circle.
Westland Circle.
Western Circle, what about it?
Is that a project, approved project?
I don't know
Whistle
what
so
it is.
extension?
Yeah, extension.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
They're telling it's 100% approved, but I told I have a meeting with the board today regarding Noah Circle. I'll talk to him because I was interested in buying that project.
There's a whole-
we are
there is
waiting
a
for something
approved
from
project.
them.
Yeah, I have the whole
What's
set
that,
of
sir?
plans. And,
Waiting for something?
Oh, hold on.
When was done.
I thought did they return, did they give us signed plans, copies of the signed plans,
I'm
or?
sure they did.
I have a signed plan from,
Okay. Okay.
I have a signed plan from the,
That's what we got.
From them.
from them, yeah. And any issues with, the planning board has with it? I know it's off.
Looking forward to get built.
There's some abutter issues that you gotta, when they start to put in the road, the lady who's right on the corner, you gotta work with her. I think she's getting a new shed or something like
There
that.
were requirements. She,
Good thing I asked you, so I didn't
Yeah.
know about it.
so there's a woman who was an abutter to the south, had been using the access, the town's property.
Yeah,
And had a shed, a light pole and a fence.
Some,
And to maintain her privacy, it was agreed that they would, whoever developed it would take that stuff and
move it.
realign it so
Well,
that she still has her privacy.
I think the shed is not gonna survive a move, so they were gonna give her a new
I
shed.
saw there's one old shed,
Exactly.
a small one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a little.
they're gonna get her a new shed,
I don't know.
cause I don't think it would move.
Also the
she will-
fencing.
Yeah,
will tell
move
you-
the fencing and a light post too.
She will tell you exactly what, she needs.
Oh, and a fence, she wanted a fence, she didn't know where the people next door were gonna be, but just a screening
The
fence.
first lot on the
Yeah.
left,
Yeah.
since we have no idea where the house is going to go, she was concerned about privacy from
There
that
is-
property.
There is, the plans
Well, the plans
They gave us
propose a
just-
house.
It was a general idea, so they basically put the square, the cookie cutter, they put that at the
Oh,
setbacks.
okay.
But
And
a
they-
a
when they
person
revised it,
could put it
They
anywhere.
twist it down in the back, they put it up the front, they could put it anywhere, and she didn't wanna have the fence moved up to here, the house is actually gonna be
Right.
down here.
Right.
Okay.
So if the house is down here, then we put the fence
She just
there.
wants a screening fence,
Mhm.
a shed, and a light post and
And the
whatever.
the house was constricted about where it was on that lot because of the
Yeah,
drainage.
it's got no drainage too.
Retention, yeah, basically.
But that's the only issue is with her, you know,
Because I don't want,
the fact that she's been using that land.
I was not notified by the seller anyhow, that's a good thing.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
So you
input.
are possibly buying it, or you are buying it?
Actually, I'm possibly buying.
Okay.
And there's a connection, the water line going up to Lawrence Street, so you're
Yeah.
aware of that one.
Lawrence Street, it's going to the water tank.
What's that?
Isn't that all in the approval?
It is in the approval.
Yeah, there's
If
the-
you
there's the-
read
there's
through
the
the approval,
gravel.
cause that's all
It's
our
a
restrictions.
8-foot gravel road and, we have an easement going to the water, close to the water tank. I saw that.
And the path above the
And no sidewalks.
Walkable, yeah,
No sidewalks.
and no sidewalks, yeah.
But it's a public path, so.
Yeah, you got the path instead of
So
sidewalks.
those two lots that are gonna be abutting that have to know that people can walk up and down, so you may wanna,
Need an access for it?
it says, on our
Public
plan,
trails.
there's an easement already there.
Public
The
transport.
trails are there, yeah.
There is, the
Public
water department needs
Walking
access.
Okay.
Not vehicles.
Well, not vehicles except for the water department. Right.
No public vehicles, no
It's
vehicles.
just a 8-foot gravel,
Yep.
driveway they're looking for, it's a water
Yeah, with
department
some
can go.
blockage in the front so people can't drive
Can
on it.
can drive
But if
it,
they
use
needed
it
to
as an
dig it up,
access,
they could
yeah.
move it.
Anything else?
Yeah, that was it.
And
as
there's
far
only,
as
what, 9 buildings?
Everything is
Eight-
on the YouTube,
Eight
watch it.
houses.
All the meetings are there on YouTube, watch it.
Is
Yeah.
It was contentious. I mean, the abutters
Yep.
north of the entrance have
They
feelings
have
about the
concerns
front.
also, and there's concerns about blasting and things like that too.
There's a possibility of blasting.
Yes, we know, yeah.
We are trying, sending an excavator at the end of this week to check it out, how much extensive blasting do we have it.
He was concerned about damage to houses or possessions in the house from blasting.
So you'd have to do that.
The
at
problem
same
is there'll
time.
there'll be a blast survey done and, the blast, that's a usual drama.
Right.
Usually the blast survey goes to
Right.
every house and check all the basements and other stuff and,
And we also have a water tower right up on top of the hill, so.
be careful,
That's the
blasting you're
expensive
saying.
one.
People ask what happens if the tower falls over, so, yeah.
It's more of a crack, a little crack.
crack, yeah.
I have the same situation, I'm building a retaining wall on my Shuzuri project, it's like 15 feet away from a water tank. And the retaining wall is about 8 feet tall, and they're telling it, we need a structural engineer to certify that wall and the tank. I told I can certify my wall, but not the tank.
Right, I'll make sure the wall stays up.
I think
Okay,
I'm
so
pretty much okay.
we'll see you in 2 weeks then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you. So is there any way we can, possible way we can send an email to Wayne Amico so that he can have the bond reduction done again?
Well,
Just tell them
we'll
it's
go
on the
check on
agenda.
them. It's one of those things that now is a very busy time, you get into September, October, everybody's gonna be paving, everybody's gonna be doing everything, so he's only got 2 guys that are going out and doing inspections.
Larry was on vacation, so usually Larry
Yeah,
does the,
Larry and Jack, are the 2
Yeah.
guys, and it can only be so many places, and they service a couple of communities, so it's,
Plus,
in our notice, they get 2 weeks to do, to schedule and coordinate the inspections.
so I had to get them for my final payment, so I've been talking to Wayne.
Talk to him early, yes.
So that, he told me, give me a 24-hour notice so that he can have someone witness, yeah. Just for the paving part,
Right, just the paving.
because he has to have someone there measuring the thickness of the
Yep.
asphalt.
Yeah, it's a lot better than-
And when were you gonna do the regrade or the apron for the,
When we do the final coat,
do that all at once?
so that otherwise it'll be like a checkerboard, I'd rather do it in one shot, it'll
Yes.
be easier.
You're not
Yeah.
gonna put a base, isn't it 2 courses for the sidewalk? Or you're
It's
gonna
all
do 2? Oh, the okay, so the sidewalk is already set.
Sidewalk is all done.
Oh, okay, so then,
So all I had to do is final coat on my road
good.
and get an as-built after the final coat is done, and then I'm done with it. Light poles,
Bounds, that
Tights.
kinda stuff.
trees and everything is in place. Looks good actually, people should drive by.
Drive by.
I drove by a long while ago when it was a disaster.
Now you go see
Now
it.
we should go see
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, see you in
Thank you
2
for
weeks, thank you.
appreciating
Chris Clark. Chris Clark here?
Where am I?
Come on up.
What's that one?
We're good. Tell us what's going on.
So we're about to sign the lease. We're signing the lease at 216 West Boylston.
Yep.
We were approved for a liquor license last month. We're ready to go. We're waiting on financing too, but everything's pretty much ready to go, waiting on the architect, you know.
This is
it's
the
kinda late game.
indoor games place.
Mhm.
Yeah. So after Nancy informed me that we were approved the liquor license, she mentioned that you guys wanted to, you know, talk with us and make sure get more approvals and final approvals and stuff like that. So since then, I wasn't able to understand what exactly you guys were looking for, so I'm happy to help with any questions or concerns that you guys might have.
We had questions about the entrance or changes to the entrance.
Change the entrance or change of use, whether we needed anything.
Yeah, I think it was in our regulations, the change of use says if you're doing something that, and there are certain stipulations.
Yeah.
And the building inspector usually makes a determination that it either needs a site plan review or doesn't need a site plan review.
Okay.
And the building inspector is the zoning enforcement guy, so that's kind of where
Oh,
you
we have
would
a new
go.
one now.
Right, and so that's the first question that you need is, do you need a site plan review? And it's his decision. I don't know what your plans are and
Right.
what, you've got, it's an existing area that was gonna be the school, is that the?
No.
No, it's out back, it's a manufacturing area.
It's the building behind the checkerboard building.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
different building?
It's,
No,
well, it's
it's
attached.
the extension. I
It's-
think
yeah,
it's the
it's the-
addition
Yeah, the old
Right.
on
addition,
the
okay.
closest to
Shares the-
CMRPC.
Yeah, shares the back wall
No.
with Ultimate Obstacles.
What's the
Right.
driving school?
Jungle gym.
Oh, the other side from, no,
CM,
not the,
CM,
Central Mass Auto, whatever.
That's on the
Yeah.
It's
south
the
side.
side closest to the
but,
mall.
yeah, but they, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
This side of the.
He's on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Right?
With your
if
loading
you're
docks
looking
on
at it, yeah.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, right where the big blue dumpster is. That'll be gone.
classy.
Yeah, right. Classy, right?
Oh.
Top
that's a
notch.
shame to
Yeah,
lose
exactly.
that.
When we spoke with Bentley, when he was here in our
Yep.
original meetings, he mentioned that he would go with whatever the architect, with the stamp drawings, the architect decides that the use would be. And then once he decides this is what the use is and this is the regulations and all that stuff, that's when I would, you know, come with you guys. And if there's a change of use needed, then I would certainly obviously have to come in front of you again. I don't know if that's different or a change, or maybe
I mean, there's logically a change of use here.
Yeah, it is a change
Right.
of use, but it has
But
to
it might-
trigger.
We want to be in the same, what we want is for the change of use to be in the same table that it was in before, so that it's not really it doesn't trigger a site plan review. Well, I'm not saying that's what we want.
It's a
That would
change
be
with
the
a small
easiest,
c instead of a
yes.
big C.
No, it's probably gonna be a change of use.
okay.
So once it's a change of use, then it has to have less than 15 parking spaces. Like if the use is there, if it was a auto dealership
Mhm.
and it needed 20 parking spaces, and you're putting in a potato picking place,
Mhm.
and it needs 15 parking spaces, you're not gonna have a violation because the parking space change is less than 15.
I understand.
The
So
parking
it's
there
a
is
parking,
interesting, yeah.
because it's definitely a change of use. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a,
Warehouse
was
and
it?
now
It
it's
was a
manufacturing warehouse.
Manufacturing.
yeah, manufacturing go into this entertainment or
Yeah,
recreation,
recreation,
whatever it
yeah.
might be. So it's definitely a change of use.
Yeah.
If it's this big change of use, then it needs site plan review. If it's not, then you don't need it, and then
Okay.
you don't need to come to us at all. The trouble is, if you do need to come to us, that usually takes 60 days to go through that, 60 to 90 days to go
Because we
through
have a
that
public
process.
hearing and other things. Right.
With plans, public hearing, you gotta notify the abutters, all that stuff. So that's why you should get something quick from the building inspector.
So the,
And
yeah,
the architect, I guess, is where it's
Yeah.
installed.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be the final, everything, not every I is dotted or T crossed, just,
Yeah.
this is what we're gonna be putting in there, and if he can come up with a plan later, our building inspector will look at it and say, oh yeah, this doesn't need a site plan, and then you follow that, and that's what you present to him, you'll be all set.
okay,
But don't wait till you get the final drawings, and then find out you gotta go through this, it should take 60 days, but it could take up to 90.
right. I mean, we're looking at a 45 to 60 day build out, you know, so my hope is to be able to open up with all proper, you know, documentation by December. So so is this site plan review, can that coincide with construction permits, building permits and stuff?
You don't get your building permits until the site plan review is, signed off.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys letting me know this. You know, it's frustrating that when I met with Bentley in April, that this was not discussed with us at that point. You know?
The thing is,
I-
you may not need a site plan review too.
Yeah, no,
You
you're
may-
right.
you may know
We-
off
So
the
if you
top
don't
of
need
your
a site
head.
plan review,
Right,
you are
It's
all
all
set
on
with the
his side.
building inspector.
yeah,
It's all up to the building inspector.
okay,
You know, the first thing tomorrow, talk to the building inspector.
okay,
and
yeah, I
say,
will do that.
You know, explain your plan,
Actually,
explain.
the other, you should talk to him also about your baseline, what the use was and how many parking spaces it required.
Yeah,
And then, I don't wanna doctor up what you're doing, but if like, the last thing you said you needed, 100 parking spaces, and then you go to your architect and he says, oh, I think we're okay with 100 parking spaces, that's good,
yeah,
cause you're in the same ballpark.
okay.
But if, you just should know where you're starting.
15 change,
Well,
yeah.
the parking there.
Well, you should know where you're starting. If it started off saying you need 5 parking spaces, you're kind of up the creek, cause you're
Right.
definitely gonna need more than 20 spaces.
But the parking is interesting there because it's parking that's shared for
Correct,
what's gonna be multiple businesses.
yeah.
And there's more parking than is required, so it's not
Yeah,
the
it's not a
idea that
problem.
you're gonna have to
Right.
build
Yeah.
more parking.
Right, understood, yeah,
It's just the process of going through it, and you have that guide. If your architect comes in and says, okay, the full build-out that we wanna do is gonna require a 15 parking space change, so we're gonna need site plan review, but we only want, we can present 2/3 of our build-out to the building inspector and only do that portion, you could start your construction, but that doesn't mean all the permits would be in place for the whole thing. There's all sorts of games that get played
okay,
to make this work.
Yep.
But what we wanna know is, does it need site plan review, and that's the building inspector that he should have told you back in April what
Yes,
was needed, I mean, that's,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, he,
I think if you go to our temporary guy, he'll be able to
Yeah.
say, okay, you gotta give him what you're proposing, and
Right.
then he'll look at the numbers, and it should be visible, it should be,
Right.
15 is a number, it's not that high.
yeah, yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else that, I can try to be proactive about instead of, that you guys might think of? So regardless of site plan review or not?
No, the guy before who owns the place came and got a business permit that would allow
Right.
him to have many businesses there, so he's kind of prepared.
Yeah.
The only thing I think that's up in the air is the use.
Okay.
I think that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
The change of use.
Yeah. See, I mean, the property
Well, he has
is
a
ready
permit for a-
otherwise.
For a business, what's called a business center.
Yeah,
Correct.
and he went through all that to make sure he could do this, which is good. I mean, so you're most of the way there,
Yeah, would that adjust the parking situation, the business center? because it got changed from the individual uses to now a business center? Would that have
No,
adjusted
back
this
then
amount?
it was, he proposed it was business center with his business, a school, and the thing that's the recreation place.
Ultimate obstacles, yeah.
And that's where no, not Jungle Gyms, it's
Ultimate
obstacles.
Ultimate.
And that's what he came forward with, and the parking was all worked out for that as his manufacturing area, which was what it was then.
Oh, understood, okay,
So that's what I don't know what his parking basis was.
okay,
And by having a business center, if you were to go in with manufacturing, you wouldn't have to even worry about, it's not
Right,
a
it's all
change
set,
of use,
right.
you'd be
Correct.
covered under that business center.
okay,
It's when it does the change that's.
okay,
It's just a change of use, and I don't know how many parking spaces the business, commanded either,
right,
before.
I know, it was a lot. So does it matter, and I'm sorry to keep asking questions, it's kind of,
Okay,
so does it matter that there is obviously an abundance of parking? So would they say, okay, there's 150 parking spaces, we're gonna split up equally this way?
No, I mean, I think that there's even a phasing, like these people use it, if it was a school and the school's not gonna be there when you're having your big crowds. I mean, I think you could even say you share them.
Right, if you didn't have enough, like if there were 3 businesses and they required 100 spaces,
Yep.
and you only had 90,
Yep.
but your uses had offset use, times of use.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is allowed in our zoning to, you just document that that's what's going on, show that
Okay.
there's an agreement between the owners that they're gonna allow parking for,
Shared parking.
Okay,
shared
Huge.
parking.
It's a huge stretch of pavement there.
it is, yeah.
I
it's
don't think
very-
that's gonna be the
More than
problem.
is required there.
Right.
So that shouldn't, the idea of having to create new parking spaces shouldn't be an issue, it's.
Yeah, I think my question is, when he did the business center, was it taken into account that there's 150 spaces, so that's how it was equally distributed, depending on what it was? Or
I don't
is
think,
manufacturing only allowed 15 spaces or 20 spaces?
No,
I
there's
don't
no
think there's no
limitation.
division that way.
Well, I think his question, which is sort of the basis, what did the manufacturing space command as far as the number of spaces?
I don't know, I mean,
Because-
it had,
because
there
that's
was a
the
certain number.
use that
Within
we're
our zoning
changing.
bylaw, it says for manufacturing, for every 1,000 square feet, it requires 14 parking spaces, or whatever
Okay.
it might be.
Okay,
You come up with that number, they had 25 parking spaces, so it was more than what was needed. We don't say, oh, you have to get rid of these other spaces.
right, it was just like,
Those
this
out
is the
there,
maximum that we allow.
This is all you needed, you have enough,
Okay,
you're all set. Yours, it's probably gonna be the same thing, you're gonna need however many, you'll have more than you need. The question with you is that change of use, and change of use kind of is a trigger to make your use more public,
Yep.
so that the public gets a chance to say, oh yeah, well, in addition to the parking issues, there's also the lighting was a mess, the noise from this is gonna be terrible, we don't want people shooting the guns across whatever area, whatever might be there, I don't know, but they can complain or explain their personal, actions that are going on out there. So it just gives an opportunity for that, and then we close the hearing and issue the decision.
That's if it needs the review.
if it needs a site.
Right.
Okay.
I wanted to add something to that. It was about, I lost my train of thought about it. It was about the number of spaces being too many. Restriping. If you restripe the spaces, does that matter? No, okay.
You mean change the size of the spaces?
Well, he's gonna take out the dumpster, so he's probably gonna move the parking closer to his entrance. And right now, there's probably there's minimal spaces down there.
Yeah,
So
right,
There's gonna be striping down there where there wasn't before,
So you're adding spaces to whatever's there.
or moving, I don't know.
or, I mean, if it
If it's all, if
pleases the
it's,
board, then we won't do
if it's,
that, you
if
know?
it's altering 15 or more parking spaces, that's a separate. If there's a change of use and
Right.
15 is one thing, or if you're altering 15 or more parking spaces, then that requires it.
Yeah.
So
So if he's-
don't do.
I
So
can,
if
yeah,
he's
I will.
If he's putting in
14.
16
Yeah,
parking
14.
spaces, then you're saying
Right.
don't do that,
Correct.
Right,
okay.
okay.
And don't do it, and it's a 10-year period. There's a 10-year time frame on those, so that, like when they do an expansion or a change, it's over a 10-year period, so you can't do 12 and then 7.
Understood.
And what is your use? Are you saying you're a restaurant, or?
No, it's more, no food, it's more of like a recreation, I think we're calling it indoor recreation center. I think that's what Bentley decided on.
It's gotta be in the zoning, so,
Yeah.
cause I know, a bar or a nightclub or whatever it is not in the zoning.
Right,
So I don't know how that's, my initial question was, bars are not allowed, so sale of alcohol is I don't know where it's allowed in the zoning, but that use was my first question, but I guess
It's not a
Bentley has allowed that.
Right.
I expect the new building inspector will review that when he's looking at your use and say, okay, well, where's this use in the table? I hope he
Right.
finds it,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You don't really have it would be a bar that,
We'll
serving
serve,
alcohol.
we'll serve alcohol, yeah, but it's not like,
It's not a bar.
people won't go,
It's not the full liquor.
right.
right. People won't go in and sit like they would at a bar at Finders or something. We're gonna have no seats at the bar. It'll be you go in, you get a drink, and you recreational stuff, yeah.
And it does take us some time to schedule public hearings if those are required, so.
Well, they have to be advertised 2 weeks in advance.
Right.
And it takes a few days for the paper to get it right.
Right, I had to do that for the liquor license, so.
So that's what makes it the longer timeframe. I mean, we'll
Okay.
hold a hearing, I expect the hearing will be held, we'll review it, close it, move on to the next one,
Okay.
and go from there, but
Yeah,
it can take longer if some neighbor comes up and says, well, what about this? And
Right.
then something we never even thought of.
Yeah, if you hear from the building inspector, maybe contact whatever
yeah, I'll
regarding,
contact Melanie or Nancy tomorrow. She's been very, very helpful for me too, Nancy. so-
regarding the planning board, you can
Yeah,
contact.
let us
Yep.
know, yeah.
Well, he oftentimes will give a zoning interpretation, it's an actual form that you can have in hand,
Okay,
so that, boom, it's done. If you,
Okay.
you didn't get one of those already from, that would be handy, cause you get this and, okay, he says everything meets zoning, there's no change in parking, and I'm good to go.
awesome. And that can be something that the architect could fill out as well.
They can start it,
Okay.
yes.
Excellent.
But
Excellent.
check with the
I wonder if it's
building
industrial,
inspectors.
indoor commercial recreation.
That's what
Yeah.
he said.
That's what it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, what zoning is that right there? Business, industrial, or
Business,
commercial? Business?
business, we don't, yeah.
So why?
Yes. Why means yes.
Oh, just use permitted. So actually, it just says use permitted. It doesn't need anything.
Is it a Y?
Why?
It's a Y. It's not a SPR.
Okay,
So that, it is allowed, but it may need a site plan review.
because of the change of use.
Yes.
okay,
Why?
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
great, thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, Flag RV. Come on up. The men, the guys with the blue shirts.
All the same names.
Couldn't find
Yeah,
Mark.
all the same names.
All the same names.
Shirt on.
Yeah.
Oldie, goodie.
Okay, you have a submittal for us.
Yes.
All everything's here?
Yeah, we just accept the application.
Just
tonight,
accept
isn't it?
Yes,
Get
yeah,
the
we don't
public
need to
hearing.
review, right.
And you had sent us
What do we do?
Yes,
What do you reply?
great, that's great. That we have this
Again?
stamp.
That's
It's
the
the third time.
approval letter.
You guys about every other month, yeah?
Building inspector says it's
Stop.
a site plan review.
Yeah, didn't the building inspector say that?
I'd get 'em.
You don't need a site plan review? Oh,
It's on YouTube.
We have a new
can,
building inspector.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well,
the old one said we didn't need it.
Actually, I think you're back to this one.
I haven't even got it, haven't seen it.
He's the same one we had.
Alright, so we have it, do we have the date?
I do, actually, that's a little.
Oh, you do?
Right in front of, right there. So I think I put it, October 10th at 7.
October 10th, oh, okay, yeah, October 10th,
Can you give that to him? and he
7
can-
o'clock. What's that?
You can give that to him and he can do
Yeah,
the
this is
posting?
the new form, so make sure that's all filled out correctly, and then that's it.
and is this the format that you want for the butters letters and for the notice in the paper?
That's what goes in the paper.
Okay,
Yeah, and you can do generally that for an abutters.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to send that.
all right, and you like this advertised in the Telegram?
And it goes on those dates, those are the dates that needs to go on.
Okay.
Yep.
The dates for publication are on there?
Yep.
Great.
Gives us everything we need,
Yep.
and we got plenty of time
Yep.
to get it in there.
Yeah, it's 4 weeks, 2, 3, 4,
And I've actually
4
submitted
weeks.
the plans to all the boards,
And we're,
just waiting for their responses. So,
what are the fees? Are we waiving some fees?
Said that last time, yeah,
I think
there were no charges, you said before.
I just wanna make sure that's on here.
Did we?
Yeah.
Well, we needed Melanie's pay.
And you said there was
We
no
had
site
that.
plan review
That's right.
because Bentley said it wasn't, so we'll keep going on.
Taking notes.
Right, right.
Write that down.
Bentley
Yeah, a
who?
lot of people coming after you.
The guy I dealt with for about a year,
Yeah.
so,
I know.
Yep.
but I guess
Still
we're
have the occupancy
willing
permit
to
sitting
go
there,
ahead with
so-
it.
You go what?
You guys still have the occupancy permit sitting over in the building department.
Do you want
All
the
signed, ready to go.
stormwater
Oh.
permit? Do we need to do, I mean, under our stormwater bylaw, is there 10,000 square feet of alteration? I mean, it's just an X on the thing, we hold a hearing, there's nothing fancy.
So we're trying to see if we have to do something.
Yeah, yeah, when we do it, because you'd issue the stormwater permit as
Same
part
time,
of the same
same time.
process.
It's all the same process, same hearing,
Yeah.
everything is the same.
Does everyone look good?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple.
And you did you did the review? The stormwater calculations?
We did not do any, from our last discussion with here, it was, our understanding that, basically it was sort of to allow the legal approval of
No, but
the building that was
you
constructed.
guys were saying that you did your drainage, then you had to redo your drainage for some reason.
No, we'd have to redo it.
No.
Conservation came down, local conservation.
Approved it.
And looked at all, approved, it was supposed to call Vinnie.
You call, oh,
uh,
you talked to
Bill
Bill?
Chase, yep.
And he was
He
okay?
came down, he says, I'm happy with everything, the only thing I gotta do is put a couple more rocks on the swale and he's good.
I haven't
Oh,
heard
I thought
anything
there was
from
some
him.
big alteration.
I'll
you
call
had to
him
do.
tomorrow, cause he was gonna call you and he was gonna come to the meeting and tell you that Flag RV is good and leave him alone.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
alone.
That's an interesting.
Leave them alone.
We actually end up with a
Yeah.
small decrease in impervious area from what has
Okay,
been.
good.
Okay. All right, they should be all set then.
For some reason, I thought that there was some change you had to make to your drainage because it was draining into your
I thought
building.
that- Where you put the
No,
building, I
no,
thought
when
the-
we had
where
to
the
put the
building-
drains in the building.
Oh, is that what, okay.
Yeah, we had to put the drains with the sewer trap, yeah, we did all that, that's all.
No, I know you did it, but I thought that at some point you said we were almost done and then had to redig some holes to
Yeah,
put this
we
in.
had all the concrete in the garage, and then the plumbing inspector decided we needed to put drains in the garage after he signed and said we didn't need them. So we had to saw cut the concrete,
You're just
jackhammer
making
it
friends
out,
all over the
put
place.
them all in, put in the sewer trap, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I know, is that document, I mean, that's the calculation I thought you did.
No.
Because
we
Bill,
don't have
Bill
anything
Chase
on
came down, looked at that with the plumbing inspector and Bentley at the time and signed off and said everything was good.
And it all spits out the same place it did before?
Yeah.
This is sort of approval in arrears, I guess.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
sort of funny, yeah.
Yeah, we
Yes.
issued the building permit,
Yeah.
did it all, and then there was problems.
Yeah, no, I was under the impression that you had spent a lot of money re-engineering your drainage at some point.
Yeah, the drains in the garage is what was the hardship, that we had to
Okay,
rip everything
Yeah.
out and start over, but
okay.
let's not bring up old wounds.
No, but
No,
that
that's
was,
not-
that would be that permit, that was,
Just get it approved, get it done, and move on to the other issues.
Yeah,
in
they're
town
still a
here,
little
so.
tender about that.
Yeah.
okay,
That knife keeps twisting behind my shoulder.
Yeah.
selling more RVs to.
Okay, we're all set.
Good, we got
Okay,
that.
very good, thank you.
See you October
See
10th.
you October 10th, yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You get this back?
Wait, fees?
137 Shrewsbury Street.
What's the fee? No fees.
Wonderful.
I
Oh,
heard it's
yeah.
no fee night.
Robin
Very
Patrick?
excited. Thank you.
Everything's on sale.
It's a sale at the planning board.
Yeah, yeah. How are you?
I'm excellent. How's everybody?
Okay, so you're,
Your coupons?
I didn't.
No,
I'm
I'm
right
sorry.
now,
Yeah,
right
you gotta
now,
have the
though.
right discount code.
Yeah.
so you're giving us a project update?
Yeah, I guess we are.
Okay,
So for the record, Patrick McCarty, McCarty Engineering, and Rob Fuller, the developer, here just to update everybody. So that you can see that the self-storage facility is 95% complete. The only thing that's remaining is the finish coat of asphalt, and then to prepare an as-built plan and turn that into you guys. The baseball field's done and in operation, and everything's going well at the batting facility. We did recently, with Ecotech, submit an ENF to MEPA, and we're, for the whole project, basically all the land, both sides of the railroad tracks and corner to corner, let's say, on the property. And, we're expecting to get a certificate or a response back from them on the 26th of the month. And, once we get that back, we will have some new site plans coming to you for some additional development
Oh,
to the left-hand side of the existing building. We're gonna be proposing 2 new buildings and, hopefully a few more self-storage buildings. We are, within the Watershed Protection Act, so once we hear back from MIPA, we can request a variance, for our impervious coverage. It's 10% of the area, but we have a very big area because we have both sides of the tracks.
Are you going beyond the railroad track?
Not initially, no, this would be another building on,
At the
Shrewsbury
top?
Street to the left where the house was torn down recently. And then just behind that would be a smaller building. So the reason we're holding off on top coat is we're hoping to be back in there doing some more development in town, and we'd hate to put down a nice finish coat and then run excavators across the top of it and chew it all up. But I, just speaking personally, I think that it looks fantastic. Rob's grass at the facility is probably nicer than my grass at home, and kinda jealous of that. So, I mean, it looks good, and it's starting to fill up. What are you at for occupancy now?
34%.
On the
I
storage.
mean, in the storage?
In the storage facility, yeah.
That'd be full.
How many units you have? Storage?
189.
Wow, people have lots of junk.
Did you expand the number of units? Did that ever happen?
We reduced it.
Yeah,
When
then
you
I
took the
thought you were
building
coming
down?
back and you were gonna put more farther back.
Well, that's what he's talking about right now. We're trying to get 3 more buildings back there, but we're
Oh, over
inside
there.
the 200 buffer. So that's the process that he's
Where
going
do you
through.
planning to put that other buildings? It's on the,
Left-hand side?
Yes,
Side?
yes, so basically, if you're facing the existing building to the left-hand side, where the houses are right now, well, when the house was, there'll be
okay.
a building there, and then, December, we're closing on the 2 pieces of property to the left,
Mhm.
and I told them when they get out of those, we'll level those out, make a plan for the corner lot.
More storage buildings or some retail space?
Probably retail.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's already zoned retail.
Just gonna, because the retail, the zoning changes there.
Correct.
Yeah, it's parallel to Shrewsbury Street back.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it is
A little
weird,
bit.
the line is weird, the way it cuts through the.
Yeah, I never could figure that out, but
I'm
it
hoping-
never was needed because they were
Funny
just
place to have
residences.
retail.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Yeah.
maybe just because it's an intersection, maybe they just did it, I don't know.
It was before my time, so it's
Yeah.
been a while.
Yeah, so the new self-storage buildings would be at the very back of the existing facility. You wouldn't even see them from the street. Same access, nothing changed out of
On
the
the other
street.
side of the field, where the house was? Or-
No, right where the existing ones are.
Directly behind where the units are now, so
Yeah.
So,
stacked.
all right, I'm confused. The new storage buildings would go in back of the existing storage building?
Yes,
Correct,
And what
Yeah.
was going where the house was?
a bigger building.
a bigger
Yeah,
building that
fire
we've gone back and forth on.
Bigger, for undetermined use or what?
Yeah, we've gone
Commercial
back and
industrial.
forth, contract to condos, maybe an expansion of the baseball facility. There's been some back and forth on that. We're still working out the details
We
on
were
that.
gonna do another indoor,
Yep.
larger area simply because the existing building isn't quite big enough, and we're in contracts right now with Holy Cross with their big building. So we've kinda committed to a certain amount of hours, so it relieves me of having to invest more money in a seasonal business and open it up to probably.
Cause all that stuff is inside the existing building that was
Correct.
there, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
It's just tight in there, you can't,
It's not
got the
another
space running.
contemplating
Holy
center,
Cross is doing a lot in town.
Yeah.
another contemplating
Yeah.
center.
Well, they'll contemplate sports.
Mhm.
Yeah, contemplating center with
Good.
alcohol and guns.
Yeah,
It woke me up, I was like, oh.
So by the end of the month, our plan is to submit site plan modification for the self-storage facility to put 3 additional buildings all the way at the back of the existing facility.
You're gonna make that an amendment to the one you have, the project you have now, or a new project?
Yeah, probably amendment to the one we have now.
Yeah, so don't get the certificate, so you don't have to start that whole
Right.
site plan
All over
review
again.
process again, you wanna
And
amend
then
it.
a new site plan application for the 2 new buildings to the left of the brick building,
Further closer to the intersection?
closer to the
Yes.
intersection of Shrewsbury and Hartwell.
Where the
Okay,
house
so,
is
I
coming
mean,
down.
So you'll stop the project, or you'll finalize the project, and that'll be a new thing over there,
That's right. Yeah, so we'll finalize the self-storage,
in the field.
and then,
And then, because we got that brick building, what's the status on that as-built getting done? Because the only item I thought, and it was just from driving by, was a question of the parking where that building is. is that in the front yard setback within 10 feet of the property line? So as
No.
long as it isn't, that's good, but as I was driving by, I'm like, oh, that almost look, cause it's
No, that's
farther
that's
forward
right
than
according
the
to
face of
the,
buildings.
it's yeah, that building's probably twice as far back as it needs to be.
Okay, well, that's
Okay,
probably
that's
why.
good then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was the only thing as I was driving by, I noticed, I'm like, oh, no, don't make that big, that.
No, that's all according to the approved site plan.
Another issue.
Stone wall.
Is the closest to the
Well,
the
what we
painting
talked about
place,
that the last time.
process,
Okay.
I forget what it's called, the other end, the southern side, there's a retaining wall, and that part, was that part of the plan?
It wasn't.
No, okay.
Yeah, we just talked about that, Vinnie said that.
Yeah, there was
Discussing
somewhere
this.
we had a discussion about that,
Yeah.
there was
Few
some,
meetings.
There was a reason why that was done, and
yeah,
That's what
well,
we
you wanna give us
resolved,
the
yeah.
story again, if people don't remember?
So we had a slope, we had a riprap slope, and, Bob next door agreed that,
Central coatings or?
yes, he said that it would be fine.
Okay.
And after they laid the riprap, he came over and decided that he didn't like it because it was on his property by about 18 inches.
oh,
So they had to redig the riprap up, dig the foundation, and order the block and put up the
Put up that,
$50,000 wall.
it's a nice wall.
It is nice.
That's how expensive that was?
Yeah.
wow.
Does look nice.
It is nice, yeah.
It's a ready rock?
Okay.
Stone strong? Same,
Stone strong, okay.
yeah, same concept.
It's way overkill, but in the last minute, that's about all
That's
that
what
was,
worked quickly.
was to build some,
Yep.
to buy something that was gonna hold up a building when it was just holding up
Right.
a couple feet of
Parking
dirt.
lot.
Yeah, a fence.
Anything else? So we did that, the other one. Is there a plan, or I didn't look at your ENF, is there a plan to do work across from the VFW, or is that?
Yeah, we showed,
In the
we showed
future.
some conceptual buildings over there, just because they wanted to know the kind of potential total build-out.
That's not,
That's nothing we're
happening.
proposing right now, no. That was just for
They just
How much-
wanted,
scoping.
how much area, cause we're running out of developable land over in the industrial zone, how much?
17 acres.
We did a concept for a 55,000 square foot building,
We did
an 80.
an 80 and a 100, and we've got 77,000 between 4 buildings.
Wasn't the issue with the bridge that gets you over there?
The only issue with the bridge is whoever buys it or uses it, it's a 1-lane bridge. Come to find out, there's not even a record of that bridge in this town, I don't know if you knew that or not. Yeah,
Really?
so
On Hartwell?
it was a wooden bridge until 2001, when the railroad company invested in the steel bridge and did it on their own. So the state of Massachusetts doesn't even have that bridge on record, because it's privately owned.
I
It's
heard
the,
that-
it's the railroad's bridge?
Yes, so I had an inspector come out, and it's rated for 100, it's rated for 50 tons, because it would've had to been rated for 100 tons if it was 2 lanes. So the railroad company, instead of investing that much money in a 2-lane bridge, they did a 1-lane bridge, since it was
For
a dead end,
street.
for a dead-end street, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had heard that they got that bridge from somewhere else and brought it
They
in.
did relocate that bridge, yes.
Yeah. So it wasn't even really
Just
built
used
there, it was,
bridge.
they had the
Brought there, it was
supports and
run.
just dropped it on the abutments and it was longer than.
I had to do that because we had people that were interested in the back lots, but they wanted some,
But isn't that within the town road? How can the,
I have no idea, I went to yeah, they
it's a
have,
town road,
does
so
seem
they,
funny,
how
doesn't
can
it?
the
they
railroad own
literally
it?
don't have any record of that bridge on
It's
file.
the train people, they can do anything,
Right.
better than the state.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The best was we were on site for the scoping session, and we would all walk out of the meeting and hear tree clearing. And we're like, oh no, what's Rob doing? And it was the railroad people with,
Oh,
you know, the rolling
Yeah.
operation, we're like,
Yeah.
even the
'Cause I called them the
reviewers,
day
the
before, asked them
reviewers
if I could
started
cut trees
cracking
down.
up laughing.
So you have a plan to develop on the, after the railroad too?
Yeah, we have conceptual plans
yes.
together for that, nothing concrete.
Not at this
Good,
time.
I like the concrete, that's good.
Yeah.
Just something to
Put
get,
it up on a
if you have to
target.
do a change, you know, we're probably gonna go back there with the 4-building concept, and use that for the approvals, and then if somebody buys and wants to do a change of use or whatever they do, consolidate the 4 buildings.
Business center.
into one.
Business center,
Mm.
Yeah,
Is it,
it's an industrial park,
oh, industrial park, okay.
yeah, that's what we're
The
rezoning.
Legion is using that, the Horseshoe.
They
Bend,
are, I'm relocating that across the street.
So that's, now it's your land?
Yeah, it's always been my land, they just they weren't really aware of it, so.
It was a convenient flat spot to put the
Yeah.
horseshoe.
It
in.
was, yeah, and it was just open and it was.
Yeah, so
Sure.
what we're doing is right next door, I got the contractors in line to move the horseshoe pit, so they have some
To the
place
right
to.
of the building, looking at the
Yeah.
building?
So if you're facing the building to the right-hand side, in between that house.
Good.
So that lady's approached me to buy her property, but I don't know if I wanna be on that side of the road too, yeah.
There's not much land there, is there?
There isn't, I guess she's in hospice too, so they're in bad shape.
It would be nice though.
Wouldn't be bad, I mean, I think it's something where I did a little bit of digging, they don't owe any money on it, I think it's more of a, get some money to do medical bills and, you know what I mean, if it's a low enough price.
Everything goes to the
I might as well do it, just,
hospice and
yeah.
get a good deal, but.
Then we own everything other than what the VFW owns on that side of the bridge. So I might use it for a parking lot or something for the, cause then you can cover up more land with building and put your parking across
And
the
that's
street.
outside all the areas, that's nice. That would help.
Yeah, well, the two, it's,
The horseshoe pit is actually outside the
yeah, we have
section.
a lot of area outside the 200 and then
Yeah.
some outside of the 400, so, a lot going on in the Hartwell Street, Shrewsbury Street area.
Yeah.
Now it is, yeah, it's been
Yeah.
dead for 10 years, so it's
Yeah.
good, it's.
It started a trend.
The town needs.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you should
So-
be seeing stuff at the end of the month.
Oh, that's the as-built or?
No,
or the new project?
the submissions for
Yeah,
everything.
The
And
amendment.
we are coordinating with VHB, just so on inspections and that kind of stuff, like you probably heard, they're kind of busy. Everyone wants to get everything done
Yeah.
before winter, like I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing. It's-
Yeah, we actually spoke to Larry today because we have, like, the infiltrator in at 127, a whole bunch of drain lines in and open, and he was away for the last 2 weeks, and we're like,
2 weeks, he's on?
yeah, we're like, you think you can swing
Yeah.
by and take a
When-
peek?
Nice
So
time of year, right?
we
Take a
can
2 week
buy-
But
yeah.
anytime, he's a skier though, he's supposed to be gone in the winter time, and it's not busy.
Send him that email tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make sure he remembers that.
Okay,
Good,
So I guess the end of the
excellent.
month we'll have more information.
okay, yeah.
Yep.
That's good,
Okay.
thanks for the update,
Yeah,
cause
sure.
there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah, it's a lot of
absolutely.
moving parts.
Thank
Thank you for coming in.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
And that 127's doing okay, no problems, just need inspections?
I need a building permit. That would help.
I hear they're giving them out like candy these
Yeah.
days.
No.
Oh, not now anymore, that's right.
I'm not on that list.
Oh,
No,
so-
yeah.
Well, he's coming out tomorrow though at 1:30. He sent me an email last night and said, don't forget to call me for a footing inspection before you pour. And I replied, you're kidding, I'm 80% done the foundation, so.
He's actually
It
pretty
got a
good.
little lost in translation, so.
This is Chris Lund?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's a great guy, and I've worked with him in the past. He's just overwhelmed between
Yeah.
Northborough and here.
You think? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you don't expect it in West Boylston, but there's a lot going on, yeah.
yeah, it's great. No, it's good for the town, so.
It is.
We're hustling right along. We're trying to be done by, January 30th for occupancy.
Oh, really? Oh, good,
Yeah.
wow,
Steel
excellent.
building sitting there on site waiting for me to finish the foundation, so that'll fly right up.
Oh, wow.
Yep. All right,
Okay.
thanks
Thank you very
everybody. Have a
much.
great night.
We have some as-built plans to review for Holy Cross.
Nope.
No?
Did you bring those in there? You wanna go get those?
You go get them.
I can't carry them.
I can't carry them.
What?
On the side.
It's like it's a whole ream.
Oh, wow.
No, we don't need.
Oh, all right.
No, if I were to look at them, I just roll them out on the floor and then roll them back up. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
we're talking about 12 inches.
So you're saying you don't wanna review them? Cause
Well,
they're too
no.
big?
All we need is the site plan review. I don't need to review, it's gotta be a couple hundred pages. Well, 100 pages.
Of what?
So, the Holy Crosses
Yeah,
as-built.
but he will be free, right, from tonight onwards? So
No.
That's right, you,
No, next
Yeah,
week.
you can
next
do
week, well, next week we can do it, that'll be before.
What, are you
we-
retiring?
So we'll postpone this then, we'll table this?
Well, did someone contact them and ask them, we need the certification from their engineer and a certified site plan that things were built the way it was, or
Well, we
why
had,
it wasn't
we
built
had
the way it
mail going
was?
back and forth between you and Wayne and me and Anita, right? Or was it,
Yes, but I think the emails from the planning board goes out through the chair. And so, if you had not sent it out, it may need to still be sent out.
Who is that?
This is a good time to send it.
let me see.
Do you want me to draft something for you?
Want me to draft something?
You the
for you?
clerk?
We'll,
I am the clerk.
Yeah.
we could ask
Oh,
Mark.
Mark, could you take care of that?
What year?
Yeah, next year.
It needs to be done in the next, I don't know, by 2022.
Holy Cross is gonna be around for a long time.
Oh, sure.
He's gonna be contemplating the letter.
Scribble something out and we'll,
Oh, man. You have a good reputation, Mark.
I love it.
that's why he,
It took me a long time to get that reputation.
if
Yeah.
you, it's like when
You
you're a
gotta
kid.
keep
It took me
You gotta
years
cultivate it, you
to
gotta
get that.
Keep tending it,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, it's almost 9 o'clock.
It is, let's go. Reports from other boards.
Oh, really? Well, that's good.
That's next. Transportation, I'll start. What's his name from CMRPC did not come to our meeting. Rich
Ryder.
Rich Ryder did not come to the meeting for, had
Personal reasons.
personal reasons. So he's coming next meeting.
When's the next meeting? I might like to attend.
It is the
Thursdays?
First Thursday of October, which is the 4th, October 4th.
Thursday.
Can you bring
4.
refreshments? Because there's no refreshments there at the meetings. Like cookies or something?
Oh, really?
We'll bring Pat.
We never
Ask Pat
had
to help us
refreshments, so.
How many people are there?
He will bring
half a
carrot and salaries.
We don't want that then. So, yeah, bring a nice salad, yeah, no, that's okay.
You said October
heard.
4th.
October 4th, yeah.
6 or 7?
Patriots play
7.
that night.
No, I'm sorry, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, October 4th. We'd love to have you as a guest. And how many people know about the rumor that the state is going to be concentrating on Kelly Square rather than our intersection?
They are not
Which-
giving a much preference for 140 corridor.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense because this project wouldn't be started for 5 years, right? And Kelly Square has to be done within the next 3 years.
No,
So
they say on 2020 or something.
Yeah, that's when the.
for Kelly Square?
Yeah.
They want Kelly Square done.
Yeah,
So
before the
everything
ballpark
Before
opens,
they,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That has to be done within the next 3 years, right? Finished, completed, constructed.
But didn't
Right.
we get promises from them from 4
Yeah.
years ago?
So-
Yeah, but the promise changed because importance of the baseball field in Worcester.
Right, but if they had done the
The
work
thing
that
is,
they
you know,
said they were
I
gonna
was in
do.
one of those meetings, those CMRPC meetings. And they do have an initial talk on what kind of money. Is this a TIP money goes for Kelly Square? Or is it the state money goes for Kelly Square?
Yep.
What kind of money
It's all
goes?
going to Kelly Square,
I know.
probably.
I know, but they are also talking about, this is for only for the baseball. And also this is only, all of a sudden now they are saying, it's a very dangerous place. There
Well,
are so many
yeah.
accidents over there,
Yeah,
so we need to develop it. We need to redesign the thing.
Redesign, which is,
Yeah.
So
yes,
the thing is,
absolutely. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is because of the baseball field.
Yes, I
Exactly.
know.
Earlier,
if
there is
If
no
you send
no
more
project. in-
cars through there, can you imagine what it would be?
Yeah, but there
Oh,
is no
it's-
project,
yeah.
there is no TIP project on that, earlier.
Right,
right?
So
Well,
ours is a TIP project.
yeah.
But the thing is, let's put it in, let's wait for it.
Yeah, as long as it's in there, that's
Yeah.
what, and then we're ready. And I'm sure Kelly Square, there's gonna be some bump or hiccup or something's gonna go wrong, so that if we're ready to go, they're
And
gonna
also,
need
it's
to
also the money,
play it.
and the town, and they give you the preference, right?
Do we have
Yeah.
the impression that it's us or Kelly Square for a bunch of money?
No, not exactly. But I think they're gonna be spending a lot of resources
Right.
concentrating on Kelly Square. The timing is not gonna be the same. This stuff's not
No,
gonna be.
but there's no list where we're 1 and 2.
No.
No,
Not
no,
yet.
no,
No, we haven't put the TIP
I
project
know.
yet.
What?
There is no TIP project yet. This one is a
No,
TIP.
no, but the way we were talking, it's like, if Kelly Square wasn't there, we're cutting.
No, 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 no,
Plowing tomorrow.
no.
Most
a
of,
long-term
most
thing
of the
anyway,
money
yeah.
will be allocated for
Yeah.
Kelly Square, that's what
Yeah.
they
But-
said.
Kelly
we're-
Square is number one,
But,
and
And we're
we
number
are
700.
trying, no, we're trying to get on the list.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Okay.
but our
Neither of
responsi-
us are on the list
but
yet,
our
but they're number
responsibility,
one.
but our responsibility is to get public
project.
forums, which is already in the works, to get the public out to say, what are your ideas? So we're starting that process.
And that's for the intersection in the middle of town.
Yes,
It's a triangle.
Triangle,
Franklin
140.
Street,
Yeah.
Franklin,
Yeah.
140 and
Oh, this whole
12.
thing?
yeah,
Okay.
so. They haven't reduced their commitment, but they're gonna be
Going to.
they're gonna be distracted by Kelly Square.
And what's the status on what is it, I forget what the phrasing is for the sidewalks, complete streets? There was gonna be a sidewalk put in past the school, from the high school down to Pine Arden, is
There's
that?
been no talk of that.
I haven't
at
seen
the
any
meeting.
work, so I
No,
wasn't
I
sure.
don't think so, he started it.
You mean on the park
They
side?
have until next spring, is that how it works with,
No, they
Because-
should use it now,
well, I wasn't sure, well,
no.
it
use
should,
it.
I haven't heard anything about that at
No.
the meetings.
So far,
They
no.
can come to my little part of Central Street and finish that.
Do that.
Just, anytime.
Just-
It'll be fine.
Section that needs it, right?
Anytime.
Just wanna lay that out there.
We have some gaps that need attention, yeah.
Right, and that would complete Central Street.
So anyway, we're gonna get a complete, okay, that's that. Do we need to talk about marijuana?
Who doesn't?
We have a meeting coming up, right?
We
Right.
do.
20.
So,
Great.
and we're presenting the draft as it is.
The
in
draft is
public.
public, yep.
Mhm.
So.
What's the
we're
day
all
of the
set.
meeting?
24th, Monday the 24th.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you saw the messages about
7
this all.
p.m.
The selectmen
Mhm.
voted to have the subcommittee pass that directly to us. So the selectmen didn't have to take any action on that.
I did see that.
You shaking your head, Vinnie? Is that not just, there's no law,
Okay.
there's no
I'm not-
law that
It's a
says.
it's a legal thing that I am not a lawyer, so I try to do it.
There's not a legal requirement for the selectmen to pass those things along to us.
Okay,
But they voted to have the subcommittee pass it directly to us.
sounds good.
As far as Anita's
Road,
concerned.
select board
I've
has-
asked the question, I've gotten an answer, so that's all that matters.
7th?
Just-
Or 6?
7.
As long as the AG agrees with you guys, you're all set.
Yeah, the AG was in on the call, yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the,
Other
with that,
boards?
there is one warrant article will be there in the town meeting. The
Only
first
one or three?
Only one warrant article, that is for to ban the,
Ban
Yes.
establishments?
establishment on total, store and,
Or to ban everything, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be,
Yeah, the whole
that's not a zoning bylaw though, right?
It's
Just
not
a warrant
General
article.
bylaw.
So a general bylaw, okay, good, so we don't have to hold a hearing on that one.
No.
Right. So that goes first, and if that passes, then it makes our article relevant.
Passover.
And if it,
Oh,
You have one article or three articles?
No, just
we
one,
have one,
just one
I
for
have
all
it.
the
Sorry.
and there's one,
total ban of marijuana,
then there's one.
meaning store, growers,
Distribution.
Did I
labs,
miss the meeting?
whatever the
Oh,
thing.
that's- yeah.
There is 3. There's one to ban, one for the zoning bylaw,
One's for the
and
sale.
one for the taxes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, a
three
separate one,
different-
a
Separate
separate
for the
one for the
taxes.
sales tax?
Yeah.
Yes,
That has to go before the town meeting?
yes.
Huh.
Town has
Say
to-
yes to sales tax. Come on.
I,
That doesn't get,
if you
passed
don't
over?
ban it and you allow the
Yeah,
establishments, I
then you
cannot
tax it.
imagine why people would turn down the money, but that's
Right.
just me.
That has to be there, yeah. That's correct.
Yeah, okay, all right, so there's 3.
So the thing is, our town meeting will be, we will get 100 people, I guess, this time.
We will meet-
Yes,
we'll get
most
100.
likely, most
Yeah.
likely.
We're not gonna have to wait 45 minutes to get 100
No.
people?
Might get more.
Just because of the ban article, I would think, a lot of people,
Let's get Pat Crowley up there and make a speech again.
but you can talk, for ban.
Hmm?
Are you going to talk towards the
In
ban,
support of the ban?
support of the ban?
No.
Prohibition?
no, that's not our, that's not our thing.
Right.
He'll do it.
That's
Who?
the one, right.
I
I
could.
don't know.
What's on the planning board?
Somebody has to, that's,
To support to support banning
Bonnie
it?
Dow?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, yeah.
that could be. So,
Unless you wanna ban all the liquor stores in town too.
Right.
I'm sure some people would,
I'm sure some people
but
would.
that's not being on the option on the.
I understand.
This
I
is
understand.
just for the people to give a chance, So a lot of people complained, the town meeting, before town meeting, they
Yeah.
said, the article is not clear. So when the ban means, they all thought, some of the people, they said, they thought, we are banning the smoking, even in individual houses or something.
Personal
So,
use.
personal uses,
That
but
was
it's not
already-
clear, so
Yeah.
just give a chance.
So it'll be clear in the wording.
Yeah, and also the,
When's that wording coming out? When's the
so, I
warrant
don't know
article gotta
this,
be done?
So the select board will,
Is the bylaws committee gonna meet and talk about that before it gets finally written up? You're on bylaws committee now,
Yeah, I know.
okay.
it's coming up soon.
It has to.
To meet between,
Actually, you could ask him to do a bylaw meeting like a week before instead of an hour before, if
Right.
there's something,
Well, they have been doing it
a week before.
a few days or almost a week before, so it is helpful, but.
Yes, you think? Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, any
And then
other-
I guess I was gonna ask, on reports from other boards, just on the activities and the things that we've heard from the building inspector issues, I would like to see, to protect the town, the senior center, I would like to have our new building inspector reviewing that project and reviewing everything to make sure that we don't,
Okay.
I mean, we had someone who was doing it and everything's going okay. But now we have a new building inspector, that building inspector should have a new set of eyes on the job and make sure that everything meets all the codes so that we don't go through the whole project, have it
Yeah.
finalized, close it out, and then someone come back and say, oh, well, this is not in compliance with the code, you're gonna have to spend more town money on this.
Do you
We've
know
already got
if
a budget.
he is or isn't, involved in that project? Any idea?
I do not know.
We don't know.
I was under the impression from the building inspector, the current building inspector, that the prior building inspector was still
No,
retained
he's still on
to
town,
do that work.
he's an employee of the
Oh,
town.
really?
Right, but,
He's a, yeah.
Who is?
yes, and he's allowed,
Bentley
he's
is-
licensed, he's able to do it, but if we've got somebody else who's in town just to get another set of eyes on it, we're already paying the building inspector.
Yeah, but again, if I have to argue, so Bentley has seen from the beginning.
Yep.
If I have to argue, he knows the plan, he spent many hours of studying the plan, going to the field and everything.
So we're
But
paying,
if you're a new
we're
person-
paying him in addition to the building inspector?
Yes,
No,
so,
Bentley is the building inspector.
He is the building
Was
I understand, but we're paying him under contract or to continue?
Well, somebody
continue
needs
work?
to be a building inspector, someone needs to go out there and do it.
so, but if somebody new goes in, they have to go dig through all the thing.
Do we have an agreement with Bentley to do this work or no? Or you're saying that would be a good idea? What are
Yeah,
you saying?
he is
He
a
is-
licensed inspector for the town, so he is willing to do it, I'm
But
pretty sure.
He was
Did he
appointed as
retire?
a temporary building
Right.
inspector. He is,
Right.
now he is a town temporary building inspector. He can inspect,
Yes,
but I don't know whether he is inspecting or not.
so you're, okay.
So what I'd like to see is to have another set of eyes, one of our other inspectors, whether it's Chris Lund or someone else, to go out there and check, cause I've heard there's, from the fire chief, there's questions about the sprinkler system, there's some questions about, we had a whole bunch of changes for the piping, I would like to have another set of eyes so that we don't end up paying more money after the fact and just have it, I mean, we've got the building
So
inspector doing
this is
this.
independent of the planning board's responsibility,
It's not, it's right, it would be a letter from the planning board or an email from the planning board
because we don't do any.
to the selectmen,
Right.
asking them to make sure that we have another set of eyes on the senior center so that we don't get
In addition,
additional
Something later.
fees in
in
the future.
addition to Bentley, who apparently is doing the work?
In addition or instead of, it doesn't matter, it's,
Okay.
have someone to get it,
Yeah, but that's the reason, we have an OPM.
the OPM is to manage the construction, he's not looking at building code compliance.
Yeah, but he's working for the town and he's taking care of the building, right?
Yep, and how has he been doing as far as the planning board is concerned? What was his only responsibility for the planning board? To
So-
provide monthly updates to the planning board. When was the last time you got a monthly update as a planning board member?
Let's see.
Do you remember when was the
No.
last time anyone got a
No.
monthly update from
No.
them?
Well, I can't say that I didn't get one, I don't check my email and that kind of stuff, I guess.
No.
We got one in the beginning of the summer, and I was excited, I thought it was a good
I
start,
think he came in.
and then, yeah, cause he
Yeah.
needed to make a change to
Yeah,
the
we've,
site plan review.
he's been
and gave him a
twice.
permit.
we've had 2 meetings with.
So that's why I wanna get
I like
another
Bill
set of
Murray.
eyes
Bill Murray
of
comes in
someone
and
who's-
explains everything.
What's that?
Their engineer, Bill Murray, I like when he comes in, he explains everything
Yeah,
pretty
he does a good job, yep, and that's why I like the site plan was done well, and the site plan review went pretty smoothly. on
Okay,
that.
so what should this board do to?
Well,
get this-
I'm just putting it out there, I'd like the board to send an email to the selectmen and ask to have another, one of our inspection service guys, I don't know how to phrase it, it's not a building commissioner, but a building inspector, Chris Lund, or the new guy, if there's a new guy coming in, to have them review the senior center project, to
Become
make
the
sure
current
everything is
inspector.
okay.
Okay.
The only thing I'm worried about is that it's gonna upend the turnip card a little bit and cost some money.
But if it costs us money now, we have a budget with contingencies. Those contingencies are for these kind of situations.
Okay.
So we got
I mean-
money there. I don't want that all closed out. They use up the contingencies because, oh, we have enough, we can do this, oh, we have enough, we can do that. And then it comes back after the fact, and then we have to
No,
spend
I
another
mean,
25,000.
That's okay, I just, I don't want to change things because it's a different inspector, not for, you know.
Are you overly concerned about this particular project or overly concerned about the former building inspector?
What we've heard from other sources, we've had issues, I mean, there are issues with 90 Sterling Street, there are issues with other projects that have been going on,
Yes,
and,
okay.
but they're not town projects. I don't have to worry
I
about
understand.
something. It's
This is something that would be a
my
cost
town
to
money is
us.
being spent
I
here,
understand.
I want
Yeah.
someone to
Yes.
check it.
Yes, okay.
And we have a guy working for us to check it.
Sure.
What is, I don't really know why Bentley isn't doing it. Isn't the current inspector, what
No,
is
no,
that
he's
story?
doing it, he should be doing it.
Not doing that, why isn't he, why is Chris Lund here, I guess is my question.
Because Bentley is gone, he's not going to be here every
He's
single day.
resigned and he's gone, taking a new job
Yeah,
in
he took,
somewhere
he
else.
moved on.
Foxborough?
He's a full-time building inspector in Foxborough. So he can be called into West Boylston as a temporary basis. If there is a project, he's an assistant building inspector or something like
To help out.
that. Help out. We have a lot of,
But
I
Chris
think
Lund
two
is
or-
now the current building
I
inspector.
agree with you that Chris Lund
Yeah.
should be involved in this.
So I guess,
Yeah, I think that makes
our,
sense.
I mean, then our message should just be, we would like Chris Lund, the current building inspector,
Yeah,
to
but
come up to
that's-
speed on the project.
yeah, but that's up to the building committee, right?
All we're saying, we're gonna send an email asking for it. We cannot make the decision.
Yes, yeah.
It's the selectmen or the facilities
committee,
group,
yes.
the building committee. That's who makes the decision. But
Just to bring it up.
that's,
Okay.
Sure, I get in trouble for bringing things up when I'm not supposed to, but we can bring this up.
so, do we need a motion or, I think we
Or is this
don't
just
have
a
a
letter?
unanimous board here. I guess I'll move that we request the, what is it, the facilities, the building committee,
Yeah, first
FISP to,
consider.
Request the services of the
to
building inspector
request the building inspector, the current building inspector,
to come up to
to
speed on the
review
project.
the senior center project for compliance with zoning and, or for compliance with building
As-
construction standards.
As the Bentley
To
is
that
doing.
committee or send it to the
Yeah.
selectmen?
Send it to the, I guess it's to the FISP, right?
Aren't they kind of the same?
We'll
No,
send it,
that's
let's send it to both. I'll move it that we send it to the FISP and the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Second. Okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed? Abstain?
Are you gonna vote
I
in?
think, this,
You have to vote something.
yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Cause you're the one that's gonna
Ag-
present it.
Agnostic?
Either way.
I mean, we're-
Also, yes.
yes, what?
He has to send the
He's
letter.
in favor.
Okay.
Send the letter, but,
Okay.
it's up to the
Okay.
Right.
FISP.
Oh, we're leaving it up to them, but we just wanna bring it up,
I have a question, okay, I
More
understand
muckraking.
Billy's concern, but the thing is that the site plan review came from you guys, came from the planning board. So because of that, you should be getting, reports on what the project is going. And you shouldn't, it should be part, I would think that it's part of your agreement when you sign off on it, that these people would be sending reports. It's just like when you deal with VHB and all of that. So sending it, I understand sending it to FISP, or sending it to the selectmen, but I think that, it should be something that should be automatic.
This is a one time,
Which is-
Tony said, we can, he gave access to the online portal.
That was
as
for the police station.
well. So this, you are getting only the email
I
thing?
got one, well, we asked, and I've asked Anita when I was chair, it's pretty simple. Send an email to the planning board's email address so that every one of the board members gets it. And it's a reminder, cause I know the construction's going on, but I don't take the time at 11 o'clock at night after I send out the letters to
Neither do
then
I.
go online and look at some website to see what the status is. And it talks about a change order for some cushion on the backdrop of some picture or whatever it might be, some building issue
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with the planning board. I wanna get something saying, oh yeah, the site plan is going along great. We got the piping in for the electrician, we got the drainage stuff is all done, it had to get adjusted when the revised plan was approved by the planning board, and we're following that plan. I just need
This-
some similar,
and-
simple thing of, this is where it's going,
And
everyone
that's-
else does it.
That's separate from getting Chris Lund involved, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a whole different
But the,
story.
the only difference between this project and all our other projects is, we usually have VHB, who is our contact in doing this, and we gave that up on this project because we had the OPM, and we were just sort of trying to have him substitute for VHB by doing the site reports that VHB used to do, and that's kind of what we're wanting.
And we haven't gotten it. So,
Right.
the OPM is on the job, but he's not doing what we want him to do. I don't
He
know,
might be doing.
he may be
he's
doing a
just not
great
telling
job.
us.
he
No,
may be
we have,
doing a wonderful job.
you know,
but
we
it's
have a
not coming to
subcommittee,
us.
we have a subcommittee as well as the FISP. So, it's been we get the updates, but I'm not sure, whether the planning board is.
Planning board is not getting an update.
You wanna say
I mean, I
anything?
think I sent
Well,
a
I mean,
response saying it was
I'm
great.
sitting here listening. Was this brought up to somebody? Did the chair of this committee send a letter 3 months ago and say, I'm not getting the monthly reports? Or
No.
was this okay, so why, I mean.
The requirement in his approval says he's gonna send, no, it's not, let that go, that is a
Don't let
requirement
it go,
of his
but
approval.
let us know.
I sent, when I got the first one, when I was chair, I got a report, I said, oh, this is great, I'm looking forward to the next one, this is a good thing. And then they stopped.
So when
Is
you
it
didn't
my,
get the next one.
is it my responsibility to babysit this guy?
Well,
Who
yeah,
we're
well,
paying
you
how
didn't
much
get the
money
next
for?
one.
Well, you're doing it now, so this is.
No, I'm not babysitting him.
No,
We're
you-
letting that whole thing go, and if there's a problem on the site plan review, we don't have VHB or anyone watching the construction on the site plan.
So if you didn't get reports from another project after 2 months, would you contact someone and say, we're not getting the reports?
That
We-
time in a.
yes, we would call, we would contact VHB.
VHP.
I mean, I heard it
VHB is
now,
paid by
I
us.
heard it now, I will ask why you're not getting the reports. I know we've talked about it at meetings many times, and
Yeah.
we just all think you're getting the reports. If you don't, I mean,
Oh, yeah?
you guys know us, if you're not getting the reports, we see you all the time, you can just say, hey, we're not getting these reports, what's going on? Instead of, the beginning of the summer was May, June, I don't know, so you haven't got them for 5 months.
I haven't paid attention, I'm not paying attention to that project. It's a town project, I assume it's being done well. But now this has come up, and then I've heard other concerns about the construction,
See, I
so
think
that's what
you're
I'm
talking about-
pulling it all
You're
together.
talking about Roomba, and there's, a lot of these answers, a lot of these questions you're bringing up have been answered, and there's no issues with some of this stuff you're bringing up, but you.
The thing that usually happens on the VHB side is VHB's in touch with the contractor. And the contractor talks to him and stuff like that, and when a problem comes up, they call VHB, VHB says, oh, that sounds like a good solution, I think the board would be happy with that, why don't you proceed, I'll just tell them. Or, oh, that's a big problem, you should bring this to the board, bring a proposal or whatever. And it's sort of like VHB is the OPM, sorta, and VHB talks to us too. You know, like, oh, they're having trouble over
Understand
here.
that, But these
or
reports you
they
get
have-
monthly on these other projects.
Or when something's
The
happening.
VHP no.
Sometimes nothing's happening for 3 months, so we don't get a report and we know.
Even for New Circle, we got a lot of complaints, so the VHP, they went
We
there
sent
and
them out,
inspect,
you know.
and then they did send the, the grading levels, we got the report. So whereas,
So now that,
But it's, what I'm
I-
saying is
I
it's
mean,
sort of hands-off for
anybody
us.
could have said, I'm not getting the reports to me, and I would have said, okay, let me look into it. I'm sure Raj could have too. If you told him in May, I think he would
Well,
have.
we got it in May. I mean, it's,
June.
but I keep saying it, it's not my job to babysit these guys.
Right.
We've got 7 different site plan reviews going on. This is a town job, it should be being done to a higher standard,
But it wasn't.
and
so
it's
it-
not. The
now-
police
now we know.
station, same company doing that work. We had that same problem. How many times did you hear this same complaint about the police station work?
Again.
How many
Raj and I
times?
were at the meetings,
we were,
we thought you were getting the monthly reports.
Well, but
So
you-
what can we do?
Okay, so what should we do?
Well,
You gotta-
just send an
Just-
email to, send an email to
Send the
Tony.
email out?
Well, we'll ask you to get us the reports.
Well, you have a member that's on
Yeah.
the building
I will-
committee too.
yeah.
He can,
He's useless. We're gonna have to do it.
So, does this take the place of the email?
No, as far as I'm concerned, it's 2
Okay.
separate things.
Okay.
Because the building inspector, I think we need to have I
Oh,
would be
that
more,
email, yeah.
yeah.
That's,
I think
that's
that's
a
different
different
email,
thing from
Yes,
this.
okay, gotcha, okay.
This is missing status updates.
Right, and that's, yeah, it's missing
Okay.
status updates. I
Message
would
re-
basically just be
Message
reviewing and
received
that's it.
then, message sent, message received. And
Yeah,
we're good?
we'll talk to
Okay.
we'll talk to Tony
Okay, all right.
to get the reports.
Any other boards?
That's all I have.
Thank goodness.
That's right.
Affordable Housing Trust got together with, what's the, housing authority?
Oh, the Leominster Housing Authority?
Yeah, Brendan Bowman.
Leominster Housing Authority?
No, well, no, our housing authority, not Mr. Roseanne. Our housing authority. And, we went over we came up with a little, a map of what we're gonna do. They sort of accepted, they want more control than we expected, but,
Leominster?
no, just the housing
Okay.
authority.
87, what's,
Well, just the housing authority wanted more control over the project than we thought they were gonna want to, and we're sort of working that out.
so this is, you are talking behind the Orchard Knoll, right?
Yep.
So Orchard Knoll is a town-owned land now, right? Is it a town land now?
Not the orchard, no, the housing authority is
Behind.
still
Behind it.
state-owned. Behind it is,
It's on the town assessor's land,
the whole thing is on the town assessor's land.
so
There's been
instead of putting a,
Housing.
housing, can we put the cemetery over there?
I don't think so, because it's not owned, but it's given to the town to use for housing, because that's what the
Is it
state owned it
retained?
for. What?
Yeah, but is it the condition on that?
Long-term.
Yes, yes, there is conditions on that. And DHCD, which is the Department of Housing for the state, wants to have
Yeah,
still
but-
some authority about the projects that go on it.
The thing I look at it is, yes, we do need the senior housings, but looking at the other projects in the town, so the median income in this town is so sky high. Do you think any of those seniors can afford to live there? If you build that as a
That
friendly
is a problem
40B,
that we're trying to deal with this project.
friendly 40B with a developer,
No, friendly 40B is not gonna be any better than we come up with.
that's what I'm saying.
Or a mean 40B. No, I
Yeah.
mean, nobody's gonna be as sensitive to this as we're gonna try.
Yeah, but everyone wants to make money,
It's
so
not
the-
us, not us. We're the town. We don't
So
want.
there's been talk
Yeah,
about
but
this
if you
on
build
the,
it, if the town build it, it's going to be the building cost will be.
You know what? In fact, if the town were to come up with all of the construction budget and build the entire building,
Mhm.
so like when we have people move in, there is no mortgage, it's still too expensive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, there's no way for this to be possible. But, I mean, I
Then why
don't,
you are building that?
because you have to. Because, I mean,
You don't have to.
you
Why do we have
can't, you
to?
can't have senior
Why
people
have
living in a
to?
cardboard box behind CVS or something.
Yeah, but if they cannot afford, like 94 North Main Street, people cannot afford to rent it.
I brought this up at any meeting that DHCD is at. I say this equation is broken.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out that the rents you calculate don't work, are affordable, they're not affordable. And they're not planning to change that equation. So we're sort of trying to go around it with this project.
If, the way DAC is now, if affordable housing doesn't do something with that land, then they can come in, and they
Take
can
the
do
land
whatever,
back.
they can do whatever they
Yeah,
want.
they can
They
do
can
it,
put
yeah.
family housing back there, make duplexes,
Who-
triplexes,
Oh,
who
to
whatever.
can?
answer your
Who can?
question, DHCD who owns
Because
the
they
land right
own
now.
the land. It's
Or controls
it's
the land.
state-owned land. That's why originally, what the Affordable Housing Trust was gonna do, and Mark will correct me if I'm wrong, but they wanted to see a possibility of the town taking control of the land. They did send a letter to DHCD, and at first the DHCD said, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
because
they
what they
granted
were gonna do.
control of the
But
land, but
then
they didn't
they-
really give us the land.
Affordable Housing decided, no, they didn't wanna, they didn't wanna take control. We had to go to town meeting and all of that. So now it's, they'll lease it to a developer, and the developer will pay, they'll build the project.
The state gave us control to build our project, but and they wanted a residential project. I don't think they have as much interest in the cemetery or anything else,
Yeah,
ball
but-
fields or
Yeah,
anything.
they do pay rent, right? One-time rent.
so there's been
It's
some
on the state.
discussion of this on Facebook.
What?
There's been some discussion of this on Facebook.
Probably.
Like somebody said, I've heard a rumor about this, what's up? And people were saying, if the land is too wet, you're gonna have floating coffins and all sorts of things.
Oh, for the cemetery?
Yeah.
Oh, Okay, well, that's fun.
So,
Yeah, but it goes to the same thing, if you buy the land next to the, besides, what's the land? Pierce Street land.
Yeah, but wouldn't,
Yeah, on the same
if
land.
the town decided
Oh,
that they
right.
wanted the land and they weren't gonna put a cemetery, they would probably have to buy it from the state. The state wouldn't just give it to them. Okay?
I don't, you could ask for
Am I right?
permission from the state to do, well, one of the benefits is that it's free land. And I don't think,
Yeah, but you are the housing board, right? You can ask.
we're
you can
Affordable
raise
Housing Trust, we actually
affordable
don't
housing.
have anything to do with
But you
owning the
can
land,
raise
the
this
housing
question,
authority
right?
does. Well,
Can you take this question to the housing board? Or the
it would have to be the state person that we take the question to. The housing authority, they can't do anything besides housing.
And besides that, the governor has already said that by the 2025, he
Yeah,
wants to
but that
increase
bill was,
150,000.
that bill gone to,
Oh, it didn't pass?
didn't pass.
The housing initiative bill that,
Yeah, I think didn't pass.
No, it did pass.
Did?
It did pass. And
the
he-
one that
that's
says
what
they're
he's
gonna
do.
speed,
He wants 150,000 affordable units by 2025. So in DHCD, like I said, if the Affordable Housing Trust isn't able to do what they're trying to do, then DHC, they own that land. I mean, it's on the assessor's property, just like all the land that DCR owns. It's probably on the assessor's property, but the state owns it. There's nothing we can do about it, you know? But we'd love to get some of that land back, you know, but, no offense, Vinnie, don't take any offense. But I mean, you know,
what about,
there's some land that they have that we could probably use for a cemetery. It's not gonna disturb anything, you know?
okay, any other boards?
no, I think that's it.
No?
But that's it on mine anyways.
Okay,
Oh, it did pass.
okay.
Actually, can I talk about that for just 1 second? That the legislation that went through is gonna affect zoning, votes. They wanna take zoning votes from supermajority to 50%, so that it's easier to pass housing zoning. That's one of the things in that bill.
Oh, did that pass then?
Yes.
Well, that passed, I don't know, which is, and one of the
I think
things
it
they
was
wanna
part
do
of-
is
I
to
think it was
change
part
the,
of the bill. I think it was part of the bill.
so it's 50% now.
No. I think, you know, it is there, but
I thought that was a bigger thing than just
it's
a.
like any state or, town can get involved in that, initiative, housing production initiative, so that the town will get some points. One is lenient on, they will look at the zoning board of appeals, how they issue the variance and special permits. If you are lenient, that gets some point. And if you change the zoning bylaw requirement from 2/3 to simple majority, that gets some points.
What do we get for the points, a toaster oven?
No,
No,
you
favorability of
can
projects.
apply for grant, you get some money, funding from the state.
It's a carrot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's, I think there's.
That's a-
there's like a.
I got this carrot right here.
On their list
Yeah.
of things that they want you to check off and get points for,
Yeah.
I think of the 10, you need to have 5 in order to qualify for these grants. And we've talked to our consultant, and we could easily get the 5 for the things we're doing in town. Housing production plan is in place, we have the Affordable Housing Trust.
Green energy.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 things on there that we could check off right now. So we're in good shape for that, if it comes to it.
Okay, citizen comments? Are you a citizen?
Have you guys heard anything about 90 Sterling Street? About our
Anything.
situation?
What's the situation?
About the,
Well, the
Not
access in the
allowing
right
us
of
to
way,
road.
they were supposed
In
to go back
discussion.
and discuss and come to a conclusion so that they can amend their site plan review. And then show us what they agreed to and works, and then we will.
because on the plan, it says that is a easement and a
I
driveway.
have not heard a single thing about it. I drive by there every day, my head turns left, and they still have the curb up there and then equipment blocking.
Have they
the
moved
way.
that van or whatever was there that was blocking the site distance?
And the fence, I heard.
Well, the fence
I thought
wasn't
the fence was
immediate.
part of it.
Oh, the fence,
I thought the fence was in the way, I'm not sure.
It was, but I think the request was to move that van right away,
Right,
Right.
and the fence was
that
to do
seems
something.
easier to
Yes.
do.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have not heard a single thing.
I don't know if that's within your purview. I mean,
Didn't we
you're the
invite
one
them?
that issued the
Can we email
permit
Wayne
and everything.
and just say, okay, when you go out and inspect, what's the status on the access and improved site distance
So,
and encroachments into the Route 12 right of way?
It's been an easement in the driveway for 40 years. So.
Yeah, there's no question that there's a right of way there and it should be
And it's
corrected.
right, and it says on the plan that it's an easement and a driveway.
yes.
So, I
We
mean,
just need to
No,
get it
wait a
corrected.
minute.
What?
On which plan?
On the plans for
Approved
90
site.
Sterling Street.
The approved site plan shows.
the
it.
only-
But it also says they can block it off. That's the problem.
The plan, yeah, the plan was approved to block
The
it off.
plan was approved to
but it was
block
a
it
right of
off,
way.
but now there's a rethinking of the,
Oh, I know there's a
Mines,
rethinking, but I
yeah.
mean, like, we can't reference a plan that says block it off and say this is the thing we're going for.
Well, there's some other issues too,
It was during the meeting,
okay? So,
the condo
we need to
association
get
kind of
this
agreed
resolved,
that
otherwise
blocking it off is good,
there's gonna be some other conflicts that we're gonna have to deal with.
but it wasn't.
And a lot of people-
Are they
So how-
planning board type things?
so what is Wayne Amico's involvement in this? If he
He's the
feels
inspector.
Huh?
His firm is the inspector.
Yeah,
What's his-
but was the fence put up according to plans?
If, we wouldn't have approved a fence on the state right of way.
And it is on the right of way?
I don't know whether it is,
That's
that's
the
what we wanted to check.
investigation that has to be done.
I mean, I thought he said that it was in the sight line, so it shouldn't be,
Which may or may not.
maybe, or, right. So, but we need him to check it out, I mean, that's what he's there
And that
for.
was his opinion when he went there. He said it was.
Yes.
He said that it was the reason,
Right.
when he drove in, that's what he noticed, because he
He
couldn't get
noticed
out.
things he couldn't see.
Yeah.
Right.
So we need an update on the status
Okay.
of that.
So if we approved it, that was the way it was, but it turns out that doesn't work out, what happens? Like,
If the developer agrees, we can change it.
If the developer doesn't agree, we don't give him a certification of completion.
okay,
What the situation is the zoning requires that they don't put anything in the sight lines. So that's a zoning bylaw. He has not gotten a variance to that zoning, so he
Waiver.
has to comply to it.
And are sight lines,
The variance.
Oh, or a waiver.
are sight lines defined and determined?
No, but when they are by an engineer, cause you pull up to
Okay.
the white
So you
line,
pull up to the white line
and you gotta be back, I think it's 12 feet to wherever the front seat is of the driver, and it's a line 3.75 feet high out to 3.75 feet on the road. So there is an actual.
Okay, so it is
a
defined.
calculation there,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
So if it's wrong, then,
And if it's not there, it's not there, and that's why Wayne is the one to.
okay. Okay,
But the rest of her question was about the
Like,
fact
what
that
if-
we said block off the road, and now they're saying they don't wanna block off the road.
well, this has to be.
Right, yeah,
in the
like,
right of way.
yeah, what
This
happens
was-
there, yeah.
This is just sort of.
There's more issues to it if they would keep the road blocked.
I thought there
thought
somewhere
there
I
was
saw
an
something that
agreement.
said they weren't going to block it. They were
I
gonna-
thought the agreement was, sure, we'll do whatever you want.
It's
So
a-
we talked about a speed
Agreement
bump
with
there
who?
instead of a curb, just so that you'd have access.
Well, right now, they haven't done the final coding.
Which is good.
And the concern was, let's get that agreed to, so that they don't have to go back and change things once they do.
But when we were having those discussions about agreeing to things, I don't think they were actually here.
They weren't.
They weren't.
It was, the old, president of the housing authority or housing group, and the new president, and their attorney or something, there was a third person, wasn't there? Or no, you,
Not sure.
I think those are the three people,
There was
you,
the guy who fell down the stairs.
there's a guy, he's the new president of the housing.
He's the old one. Tim Brown is the new one.
I thought he was the old one.
No, Tim Brown was the old.
Who's Tim Brown? The one with the bum ankle?
The younger one.
That's Dennis. He's the one with the bum ankle.
But he never came to, when we were having the, discussions, it was the younger guy, and there was sort of this consensus that they could block off the road.
The reason that they
Anyway.
thought about blocking off the road was because everybody was cutting from 12 to 110 and 110 to 12. And they were trying to see if they could alleviate that. But they can't do that because that road, our legal,
No, I understand that they
legal
shouldn't do
address
it now.
is 86 Sterling Street. They cannot block us off from coming to our property from Sterling Street. That is our legal address, and that's what they're doing now. They're blocking our entrance to our property.
Because that was on the plan.
Huh?
Because that was on the approved plan.
Well,
No,
The
so
right-
it was obviously not on the approved plan because we blocked it off.
well, no, that's what he said.
That's
It was
what I said.
It was
It was
blocked off
blocked.
on the
The
plan.
approved
Oh, yeah.
plan
But I
had it
think-
blocked off.
I think
Yeah.
where we're going here is we need to invite
Yeah, both invite them and.
90
we'll talk.
Sterling,
Yeah.
Big Daddy there, cause he couldn't make it, he had some commitment with his grandson or something so we asked him to come in and we talked about it at our next
We
meeting.
need to get this resolved. I assume they wanted to finalize the pavement there before the winter.
I'm sure,
Well,
I don't know.
We'll see what we get for a
And-
response,
and-
if we need to
and your
encourage.
guys.
I've talked to the condo association and I've asked them for the last couple of weeks if they've contacted him and they said no.
Well, if we need to encourage him, we can just talk to the building inspector and have him withhold any more occupancy permits until this gets addressed.
We need to address this.
Then do that. We should.
Yeah, but before then, we never had an opportunity to talk to the builders.
No, but we should tell the building
Right, so
inspector.
we
Yeah,
wanna
let them,
Building
let
needs to
us
come in.
invite next meeting.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
then do
yes,
that, you
yes.
know.
Right, but I mean, that is in our back pocket.
Just because
We
of
have
that,
to.
you know, we shouldn't be.
If
No, we
that's
don't
the
need to do
case,
that right away, no.
Yeah.
I
but if
agree.
that's the case, on the invitation to the builder, we should copy the building inspector just so he knows what's going on.
It's a good idea.
I mean, he knows the same story that we're giving them
Who
and
writes
all
that
this
and
kind of
sends it
stuff.
out?
Chair usually.
The chair usually does that?
Can you also send
How
it
many
to
things
the
you got going?
condo
When you start getting 4 or 5
Do
things.
we know them? Do we know their address or
And
something?
delegate.
Can you send me, information about who to send this invitation to?
Tim Brown, I don't know his
We
email
have it.
address, but I.
We have it?
We got a CC, just,
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
I think
We
he's
sent it
contacted
to-
them.
Tim Brown?
Tim Brown.
Yeah,
Okay,
what was
Tim
it?
Brown.
the August meeting, we invited them to, so it would be before the August meeting. we
Okay,
would've gotten
all right,
emails.
so I've got that.
And the whole group is right there.
I don't
And
need,
add, Chris Lang.
I don't need,
If I see him tomorrow, I can have him contact Melvin.
I don't need to go to CVS and get a special, invitation
No,
card. Okay.
no,
Checkerboard. We should get a checkerboard invitation.
We should.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
those are always nice.
Well, there's a new, they sold the company at someplace. I
oh,
don't
they
know.
did someplace else.
It does exist still. I don't know what it is.
All right. 8:50, I didn't make it. Review and approve payment of invoices and review drafts.
And the,
Regular meeting minutes. Do we have any?
Yes, that's-
This is,
I don't know,
this is
that
the
was
Girl
a lot.
Scouts. It's a
Oh, the
plan,
Girl
it's
Scouts.
a plan for putting edibles, making edibles.
What's the they requested some okay, stormwater put the SWIP, so that's good, we need this. I saw something on the select board agenda for the Girl Scouts, they asked for some easement. That's not on our site plan review, so they need to come back to us.
Selectmen for an easement?
Yeah, they asked him for, an easement because something about the drainage, whatever, and
Too close to the town line.
it was voted 4-1 to approve it. And
by who?
the Board of Selectmen voted 4-1 to approve it, and I'm like,
You can vote on these
I don't think that that's right, because it's part of the A and R. And that should've the Board of Selectmen, in my personal opinion, the Board of Selectmen should have sent it back to you for review. Because now that's gonna change the A and R.
SPR, site plan review, or?
Site plan.
No, it's gonna change because they have to separate the property.
Huh?
Remember,
So
remember
That
St.
lot,
St. Pierre owned that whole property, they came before.
sort of
you
the
to
drainage
do the
lot, and then they broke it in half.
The drainage is on the A and R. That change should be put on there to show that there was a change to it, right?
Drainage is not usually on an A and R.
no,
A&R is
there
just-
was one big lot that had the drainage
Oh, drainage
and this
easement.
corner.
Right, the
Drainage
easement, right.
Well, no, before that, there was an A&R that had this big piece of property, like an acre and a half or something.
Yeah.
But the Girl Scouts only wanted to buy a part of it. So St. Pierre came in and they broke this lot in half.
Yeah.
With the drainage on one side and their thing on
And
the
that's
other.
already been signed, the A and R?
That was before the whole project.
Okay, fine,
It was
So
while
thi-
St. Pierre still owned it,
okay,
so they could sell it, is what they wanted to do.
okay.
So, but I don't remember what easements were on it or anything.
I think, it's very close to that,
The basin.
basin, so they want an easement.
Easement for
What's
what
the
though?
easement for?
It's very close to it's a
Right.
town or,
But it's an easement to fill into the basin, is it an easement to
To get into it, to clean it up?
access it, is it an easement for a right of way, is it,
Cause it's
what
okay
kind
if
of
it's
easement
closed.
is it?
I think it's right of way.
Is there a pipe or something? Like an overflow
Selectmen
pipe?
voted on this at the last meeting?
Yes, 4-1 to approve it.
Do you remember what the easement was for? It's an easement
It had
for,
something to do, it had something to do with the drainage.
Something to do with the
Is
drainage.
there like, maybe
Because
there's
it
an,
was on,
oh, well, they wouldn't want that.
it's something like 18 inches or something was on, it butted up against the town and whatever, so they needed to come and get an approval to change that.
Were you there?
Which way?
I was there, and
Like
I
they,
want to know.
there's property that the Girl Scouts wanna
They should
use
go back to
on the
planning board.
St. Pierre property?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
on their property now.
if it's an easement if the town grants an easement to the Girl Scouts, that means it allows the Girl Scouts to do
To access
something
property
on
someplace else?
town
Somebody
property.
else's property.
It's not the town property, it's St. Pierre property.
No, it's the town property. If they got an easement from us, it's the town
It's a town
property,
property.
which I don't know,
Can't be the town.
oh, unless it's the town's drainage easement. The town may have a drainage easement and
They might have
want
an easement on St. Pierre property,
Right, and they may have,
because none of it's
I mean,
town
it
property.
could be, I don't know all the details, but if we have a drainage easement, let's say it's the drainage, it's a stormwater basin that's out there,
Yeah.
and it's a certain size, and the Girl Scouts don't have enough room and they decide they need to fill that basin, that wouldn't be a good situation that the selectmen approved, but I don't know what the selectmen approved.
Right.
I don't know if
Raj,
they,
you recall?
Yeah, I will get that,
We just
document.
need more
Okay.
information.
okay. so
Thank
we
you.
can- yeah.
You'll get us the details.
And then actually it has to go to the St. Pierre to change their engineering drawing.
Right.
And they can come back in for another A and R. Just to get the new document.
To show the easement on it.
Is that right, Vinnie?
I don't know if you need an A and R to change.
Well,
the
but they
easement.
need to change that document.
They don't need to change the property line, they just need to
Yeah,
add an
that's right.
easement.
Add an easement to that, right.
But
I mean,
that
we
has,
could waive the
that has
the
to
fee.
go to the registry of deeds.
Right,
Has
it
to be
has to go
shown
through the
there.
same process,
Yeah.
but they're not actually changing it, we don't have to charge them anything, I guess.
Why not?
Cause they're, like you said, they're not changing anything except adding easement note
Right,
to the
but we're
drawing.
going through the process of an A and R, so why don't we charge them just like we charge everybody else?
Let me get that,
We didn't charge,
full detail.
Yeah.
Let me
Okay.
get that full detail, then
Okay.
we can talk.
But I don't see why we would not charge
Okay, fine,
them.
we'll charge them, good God.
Okay, let's sign these things.
They still owe money anyway, she never got back to me, I sent last week and asked payment of a bill and I've got no response.
All
Just
right.
reminded
We'll
me
barter
to
for
talk-
cookies, right?
Can we,
They're not even giving me cookies.
Well, you wanted some cookies at this.
can the
No,
treasurer
That's right, so.
kinda work on that one? Are there ones that are not responding to your inquiries?
That one, and I don't, I'd have to go back in there and look.
When you
But
get a
I just
chan-
remember that now because we brought it up and I'm like, wait a minute, last week I
Mhm.
sent out an email asking for payment and didn't receive any. I did receive Bob, Longden and,
For Briarwood?
yeah, I don't know if there was one more.
If
but-
there's something that hasn't been collected, can you forward those emails that you sent to our treasurer
Mhm.
for a more forceful email?
So the cement shoes kind of thing.
Capital letters.
Send
Okay.
cash money now.
Right.
Or Thin Mints.
Melanie, we're good to sign all these things?
Samoas?
No.
Who signs it? I signed this, right?
3 of them.
Yeah,
3 people. These 3?
yep, just send
One
it
of them
down
should
the
be the
line.
treasurer. Yeah.
One should be the treasurer?
One can do that.
Ninety Sterling.
No, send it down, so she can sign.
We did have, get $1,000, so that's good to pay.
We did?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Good.
That's not one.
There's two there's
It
two
was
in the order.
$73. What did they charge $73 for?
Okay. Oh.
Going all in the same direction, so all in the same order.
Consistent.
Mhm. Otherwise, we miss signatures.
Get a fourth signature.
Minutes.
Minutes. Everybody read the minutes, right?
Marvelous job.
Of course.
Mhm.
Didn't we have a meeting that you didn't attend?
Yep, we're waiting for you to prepare those minutes.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, yeah, it was gonna be a YouTube thing. We're gonna just YouTube minutes.
Did you
Yeah.
type them?
Me?
That's what I'm asking.
I guess I'm doing them after that letter.
You got that done so
After-
well that.
What?
Minutes?
Where are the
Isn't that,
minutes?
was that
Here.
the first one that I
Do you
came
want me
to?
Motion, both of them at the same time?
It should be at the bottom of your file.
Okay, we
Did
can
you,
make a
did you
motion.
distribute minutes to us?
I did,
Yeah.
they
Yes.
should be at the very bottom, they're always at the
Bottom,
bottom,
bottom, right?
bottom of the pile.
I'll make a
Last
motion.
meeting we had,
No.
Motion.
we hasn't even found them yet.
What's going here?
Even better.
No.
Bill's.
I don't have.
Here.
I don't have any minutes.
Got it. Thank
No, I can't make the motion.
That's
we
right.
don't
There's a
want-
special
we don't want
folder.
I was just gonna make that motion.
Wait.
Just vote together.
Especially with the late at night.
You cannot make a
Okay.
motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we just read the tops. I'll make a motion to approve continued public hearing meeting minutes for Emuge Corporation on August 8th and the meeting minutes for August 8th for the general meeting.
Second,
All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
I abstained because I wasn't.
Yeah.
so motion to adjourn.
No, we haven't approved them yet.
We
I
did,
thought we just did.
we did.
Oh, okay.
I didn't,
I thought you were
I put
making
it
a
on.
motion to combine them.
No,
Oh, no, I made the motion and combined them.
Okay, good.
To approve.
It's good, to approve them
Approve
both.
both at the same time.
People are too fast for me sometimes.
I didn't mean to. Did you wanna do something different?
No,
Okay.
no, that's fine. Do I hear any other motions?
motion to adjourn?
Like that one?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
So no abstain.